Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 10th monthly TWitWoW Q&A. We have a grand total, and I counted before we went live, 60 questions this month.
Holy hell, that's a lot of questions. Can't
To
wait to
me,
get them, though.
that's like the perfect amount of questions. I always wanted to be somewhere between 45 and 65. And we're right there, right under the 65 mark at 60. This is going to be a lot of fun. But ladies and gentlemen, you might as well just take a deep seat, get your snacks a while, get ready, because this is going to be a marathon.
Hey, that's what you and I fucking do. So let's get started.
My only question is how in the world I'm going to manage to do this after spending over 3 hours talking about the draft last night.
I know, right? That was insanity.
All right, let's settle on in. Let's buckle our seatbelt. Let's, in the words of, I believe it was Caitlyn Jenner on South Park, we better buckle up, buckaroos, because this is going to be probably 3 hours again. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna start. We got 4 questions in chat. He's known as Luna Corva. We know him on Facebook as Shay. But we got these questions back in March, and I just forgot that I even got them from him because he sent them to me via Facebook Messenger. And my Facebook Messenger gets very, very overcrowded, and I just straight up forget that people ever even ask questions on there. So to make up for that, we're going to answer those questions today, and we are going to open with those questions. So, John, let's get this going. First question from Shay Holm. He kind of talked about how, you know, there seemed to be a lot of old men yelling at the clouds in the world of pro wrestling. And what he wanted to know was if you or I have any veterans in the industry that we actually enjoy listening to. And he also kind of addendum onto that. Who do you think makes good points?
You know, I have 2 veterans that I could put forward right now. One that I've listened to extensively. The other one, not so much, but when I do, I like what he has to say, and that would be Raven Scott Levy and Kevin Nash. I love a good Kevin Nash shoot interview.
Kevin Nash was going to be my answer. Yes, dude. I love listening to Kevin Nash's stories. Even though, like, a solid, 80% of every story that he tells is complete BS, I still absolutely love listening to him talk about the business. And like when somebody asks him a question where they feel like, oh, I'm totally going to stump Nash on this one, and he just has one of those comebacks where it's like, well, yeah, but you forgot this one little minor detail that completely changes the complexion of your question. And he just gets like that smug, shit-eating grin on his face. I love it. He is hilarious.
Yeah, and I think I'd also throw in there, though, again, it's not like an all-the-time thing, but I think more often than not, he comes on my good side. I do enjoy hearing, like, Stone Cold's perspective on certain performers and storylines going on in the business. Because I've listened to, like, little, like, clips of him talking about, like, Joe or Rollins or Kenny Omega's match with Okada, and I'm like, yeah, I'm really digging where he's coming from. So, yeah, those are 3 names right there. I'm not going to give any more. Would you give any more besides Kevin Nash?
I will agree with you that Scott Levy is a really good one. Raven, he's really, really good. I'm trying to think. Believe it or not, Kevin Sullivan is pretty decent to listen to. He's not my favorite. The only other guy that I would really say that I enjoy listening to, though, who's a vet, is Al Snow. I love Al Snow.
Yeah, dude, that Al Snow shoot interview you showed me. Honestly, I should put him on there as like an honorary mention, because though that's the only thing I've listened to of his, I loved it.
Yeah, that shoot commentary that he did for Kayfabe Commentaries was really what inspired me to become a YouTube content maker in the first place. So if it wasn't for Al Snow, you guys might not have TWitWoW right now.
Really, that shoot interview plus Al Snow's sentiments on Cody Rhodes when he initially left WWE, I'm like, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I'm actually really glad you brought him up because I was about to do a huge injustice by not talking about him. So good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Second question from Shay. He basically wanted to know what you can name as many as you want, up to 3 old school mindsets that you think more promotions should keep. And then on top of that, he also asked for some newer school mindsets, up to 3 also, that you think promotions should adopt.
You know, there's one that I was really fond of. I think it has no chance of working in a modern context, to be fair, so I don't want to make it seem like I lack self-awareness. But I loved when I would read like biographies about ECW and stuff, like how committed to their characters and storylines certain performers would be. Like I remember when yeah, what was that?
Are you going to tell the story about Sandman not leaving his house?
Yeah, Sandman not leaving his house. That was the one. And I'm like, man, I would love something like that, for this day and age. Again, do I think it's possible? Absolutely not. With how everything is with the dirt sheets and everything. But yeah, that's one mentality that even if one promotion would really try it, I'd commend them for the effort alone. As far as new school mentalities, I don't really know. I don't really know. I mean, if you consider Lucha Underground as kind of new school with its approach, like, yeah, we're wrestling, but not really, because we're more just a TV show first and foremost. I think that's a mentality. I know Jim Cornette's very visceral about it, but I think he comes from that territory age that, to me, you don't really see that anymore. And that's definitely a new mindset. Like, kind of ease up, know what you are, and just put your pedal on the gas, or put your foot on the gas, I should say. What about you?
Yeah, the old school mindsets to me that really should be kept around, and really we've kind of lost, that we really need to bring back. First of all, I think that the heel face dynamic has gotten completely kind of switched around. To me, a heel should never be portrayed as the better fighter. A heel should always only be able to win if they cheat, or if they do something underhanded, or if they get some kind of distraction or something like that, because that is what makes them at the core a heel, is that they aren't as good as the babyface counterparts, but they find ways to win that aren't within the rule book. They take advantage of human vulnerabilities and they exploit the rules. Baby faces should always be portrayed as the better fighters, the better wrestlers, the better performers, etc. So, like, for example, a Kevin Owens guy. Like, Kevin Owens is pretty consistently portrayed as the better fighter between whoever he's in the ring with and himself. And to me, if somebody is going to be portrayed like that, they should just be a face. Same thing goes for Cesaro. Cesaro should never be a heel, because it doesn't really matter who you put him in the ring with. He's always going to be the better performer and the more entertaining performer and the better wrestler. So in those cases, I think that those are the guys that need to be your faces. And then your guys like your Roman Reigns and The Miz, guys who are entertaining but are not necessarily the workhorse type in the ring, those should be your heels. That's the big one to me, is finding a better way to separate the heels from the faces.
I can appreciate that for sure. Is there anything else you want to say? Because that was really all I had to give as far as like
another one to me is that I think that the WWE is really the biggest problem here when I bring this up. Really, WWE specifically just needs to learn how to listen to their fans better and react to the fans quicker and more sort of willingly, because it seems like they are usually very, very hesitant, if not full-blown scared, to react to fan reactions, because it's almost like they almost have this fear that, like, if they do something to change something that isn't working yet, that the change won't work, and then if they try and switch back to what they originally planned, then it will be perceived as like a complete joke because you're switching it too much. But to me, I do think that you should commit to one or the other. But like, if you decide, okay, we're moving forward with a Fandango heel run, and Fandango starts wrestling and he gets, he puts in a few matches, and next thing you know, there are people that are really starting to kind of have this positive reaction to him, and that you just kind of notice that the more he performs, the more matches he's in, the more promos he cuts, the more stuff he does, the more positive his reaction is. I don't think that you should be slow to pull the trigger on turning him face. I don't think that, like with the WWE, what they would do in that case is, rather than seeing the momentum being built up and being like, oh, well, we don't want him to get cheered, he's doing a bad job, they should just, rather than doubling down on those heelish tactics and tendencies, they should just turn him face and go with the flow and do with him what the crowd wants you to do with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think it's kind of a terrifying mindset that Vince or anybody that thinks like him has, that like the whole industry right down to fan reaction is malleable to your will. Like you can make it whatever you want it to be. That's just not possible. There are always going to be variables that are unaccounted for. But I think we need to be considerate of those variables when they show themselves. I mean, to your point, if a heel Fandango is working and cutting promos, but he's getting a positive reaction because people like what he's doing, you shouldn't try and fight against that current. You know, you should just let that happen and, you know, just try and make it work for you. That's what I understand. Like to me, when they try and do stuff like that, it's like pushing a brick wall. Like you're not going to move it. So, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. I think that's about all I have as far as old school. As far as new school goes, to me, the number one thing new school is stop trying to pretend that pro wrestling is a real sport. Everybody knows it's a work. Everybody knows that these guys aren't actually trying to defeat each other in combat. And if you embrace that, if you embrace the fact that people know, and you stop trying to present it as a real sport, and you stop having these backstage interviews where you're trying to make it seem like, you know, like the pre-halftime, let me catch the coach as he's walking towards the locker room to get his thoughts on, you know, what happened in the first half and how he could improve in the second half. Like, there are so many different ways that you can improve your presentation by just stop pretending that you're a real sport.
And here's the thing. I don't even know if I necessarily agree with that. I just want some commitment on some kind of identity. And you and I have kind of talked about this. You think about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, I think they do take themselves very seriously, but it works because I don't really see them waffling. On the other hand, and this is kind of what I was going on about, like with my points about commitment.
Okay, so you know what? Maybe rather than saying stop pretending to be a fake sport or pretending to be a real sport, maybe what I should say is commit to one or the other. Commit to, if you're going to be one of those promotions that tries to sell people on being a real sport, go full on in that direction. Don't half-ass it like the WWE does. Or on the other hand, if you are doing what I'm suggesting, then yeah, don't even try and pretend that you're a real sport.
And see, I agree, because where I have a problem, and this goes back to my initial points, you know, on my half of the answers for this question, when you have people that like, or you have storylines going on that, you know, are a certain way, and then like maybe a little bit later into the show, you see them in like a package for Make-A-Wish, and maybe they're even greeting kids with the person they're supposedly feuding with. Like, you know, what's going on there? Know what you want to be. Do you want to be completely a brand, which it seems like you're celebrating, or do you want to be something else? Make a decision and commit so that we all know where you are. I really don't like the lukewarm commitments. That's definitely my biggest problem for sure.
Yeah. All right. So those would be my old school and new school mindsets that I like. What about you, John? You want to talk about anything new school, or are you just kind of worn out?
Like I said, on the new school half, I love what Lucha Underground's doing. You know, it knows what medium it is, and it plays with it immensely. In fact, if that's really any new school mindset, and I know this is going to sound cliche, don't be so goddamn tense. You know, take chances, play with it. Television's an incredible thing, and I think Lucha Underground really understands that. And, you know, when you define the parameters of a world, play with those parameters a little bit. Don't be so, like, scared that you're doing something, you know? So, yeah, like, be fucking bold, if I had to put it in a phrase, because I think that's what you're saying with Lucha Underground. Hell, PWG, like, I love that they treat every match, and you even kind of had the soundbite when we were watching one show. They treat every match like it's a main event, and we even kind of marveled, and you initially brought this up to me, that even they have storylines, like, through their matches. I mean, case in point, Chuck Taylor's undefeated streak. You know, and they're playing with the medium of pro wrestling, and in Lucha Underground's case, they're playing with that and the medium of television. Don't be afraid to be experimental. You know, that's definitely my thing, because it's all about progress, right? So that's what it comes back to for me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, any other stuff you want to talk about as far as old school versus new school?
Nah, man, we can move on to the next question.
All right, third question from Shay. John, I have to send you a text in the Hangout chat.
Oh boy.
Because Shay wants our live reactions to this.
Okay, this is an intriguing.
It's really long, so you're going to have to scroll up to start reading it. But basically, this is Jim Cornette on Omega Okada.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. So
So while John is reading silently to himself, or if he wants to listen in too, that could work. I'll read this out loud. Jim Cornette said about Omega Okada, I watched this match, and I'm sorry, folks, but there's no way, shape, and form if you watch them together, and if you're a younger fan. Oh, and if you're a younger fan, you might not agree with this because you didn't live in the time when pro wrestling matches actually happened. Now you have sports entertainment matches, but there's no way this Kenny Omega and Okada match is anywhere near as good as Jerry Lawler versus Terry Funk from March 1981, Tiger Mask versus Dynamite Kid from January 1982, Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat 1989, all three matches, Steve Austin versus Bret Hart in WrestleMania 13, I believe it was, among others. I mean, it was a great display of athleticism. I mean, these guys, they took a lot of risks, but it had such obvious cooperation and moves that nobody could really get up from and etc., that it doesn't fit in that category. As far as I'm concerned, Kenny Omega should do the motion capture deal for video games that he's so infatuated with, but it wasn't a 5-star pro wrestling match, and much less a 6-star pro wrestling match. And I'm sorry. I'm effing sorry, but it was an exhibition of guys doing moves. I mean, it was wonderful. The first 10 minutes, I was dying. They fought on the floor forever without being counted out, and I jotted down some things. They'd do a big move, and then they'd lay around forever. They sold so much, and everybody said, oh, Cornette, you say they don't sell at all. Well, some people don't sell at all, and they sold too much. They knew they were going to go long because long equals classic, but they sold so much it felt like they were in slow motion. Omega is a great athlete. He still has stupid facial expressions. Calm down on the Ultimate Warrior effing shit, and anything that reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior instantly makes me mad because he was the worst pushed wrestler in a major promotion of all time. It was a really good 20-minute match that lasted 45 minutes.
Oh my god. Does he have these diatribes because he's just been banned from every Dairy Queen in his area, so he can't, like, unleash it on them anymore, so we have to deal with this crap?
No, John, he has these diatribes so that he stays relevant enough for people in audiences like ours to ask people like us about him so that we can keep him relevant even more.
What do you think, man? I'm going to have you go first on this one.
Dude, I don't care what Jim Cornette says. He doesn't understand the new sort of mindsets of pro wrestling. He doesn't understand that treating wrestling like anything other than a real sport can work and can draw and can make you money. He doesn't really seem to understand that just because he doesn't like something, that doesn't mean that it's bad. He needs to understand that he's allowed to have his opinion, but his opinion is not the final say on anything pro wrestling. And what he also might need to wake up and realize is that even though he sort of tries to come off as this wrestling genius, this great wrestling mind who knows the business in and out, he's literally never been responsible for booking a promotion that actually ended up being successful. Even Smoky Mountain went under within like 3 years because he wasn't drawing enough money. He booked ROH into a hole. He's never been responsible for a successful wrestling promotion, and people still treat this dude like he's some kind of genius in the business.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time I liked Cornette, but anymore, it's just like, dude, where are you even coming from? And I feel like this question pairs perfectly, or this reaction pairs perfectly with what we just got done talking about, old school and new school mindsets. Now, am I saying that everything from the Territory age was awful? Absolutely not. I'm sure there were definitely some, great things there.
See, but that's the difference, John. The difference is you and I can say, was everything about that era terrible? No, but it doesn't work anymore. But what Jim Cornette can't say is everything from today's era terrible? No, but some of it doesn't work. He can only say everything from my era is right and everything from this era is wrong.
And see, that's why I don't want to give his viewpoints any more credibility than they already have, because this is a guy that's not willing to have a legitimate discussion. It really does seem like, because I've heard him the same way I've heard those Stone Cold highlights, I've heard Cornette highlights, and it really does seem like my way or the highway kind of mentality. And I don't play ball with that shit. As far as I'm concerned, this guy can be left in the past with everything else. I feel like guys like Omega, and Omega has said, the match I had with Okada, that's my vision for the future of pro wrestling. And I responded. I said, what a beautiful future that is. I thought it was a stellar match. I enjoyed it. And if people enjoyed it, who are you, Cornette, to whip your dick out and piss over everything if these people enjoyed it? Because at the end of the day, no matter how you present wrestling, wrestling is still a product at its core. And if your consumption isn't enjoyable, then really who gives a fuck about the underlying philosophy is my thing. They all enjoyed it. Enough said. The arena that saw it, they seemed to all enjoy it. Enough said. I just think Cornette needs to pull his head out of his ass. So that's my reaction to that.
Yeah. So up next, we have our fourth and final question from Shay, and it's really kind of more of a creative fantasy booking kind of thing. John Cena, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan have all magically managed to sign to Lucha Underground. How do you think Lucha Underground would balance such high-profile stars while trying to avoid the pitfall of WCW and overusing them? Also, how would Lucha Underground even write for someone like John Cena, who seems so out of place in that promotion?
Oh, man. That's tough. Because here's the thing.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you can go first.
I'll let you think. Yeah. So first off, as far as balancing the high-profile stars, I think the simple answer is to just keep doing what they've always done and just have a roster rotation. We don't need John Cena, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan to be on every show in order for them to draw higher ratings by just using those names. They can have one of those guys on every show, and still we would only ever have to see any of them once or twice a month. It's not one of those situations where, like in WWE, you would get to see Cena not only once a week, but multiple times a week, or multiple times in one night every week. It's a situation where you would see one of these guys every week, and just having their name on the description for the episode would raise the viewership.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Because the whole question was about fantasy booking, right? Like how you would treat these three guys.
Well, the first question was, how do you think Lucha Underground would find a way to balance having such high-profile stars while avoiding the pitfall of WCW and overusing them?
Oh, well, in that case, I wholeheartedly co-sign onto your answer about the roster rotation. I think that's why such things are in place to begin with, so that we don't have an overexposure, really, of any talent. So, yeah, I think that's a simple answer. And then, was there a second part of this question?
The second part is, how do you think how would Lucha Underground even write for someone like John Cena, who seems so out of place in the promotion?
Oh, God, yeah, because, see, Brian I already kind of had an idea for, and Punk I was getting a semblance of an idea for, because I know they'd love to work with him. Cena
Honestly,
really
to me, in Lucha Underground, John Cena is a heel.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there.
I could see them doing some really interesting stuff where he kind of like he's there and he kind of like the Bo Dallas factor. He thinks he's a good guy, but like he gets relentlessly booed, and they can still use him as a heel. Like, even though he thinks he's a good guy, they can still put him against good guys and have him play the bad guy in the matches.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I feel like with the way Cena kind of comes off, with his bright, colorful T-shirts and his attitude and everything, he kind of represents to me like this cliche, this stereotype of like an American, or what it means to like be in America. And like I think about like Johnny Mundo's heel gimmick in AAA, but so I feel like you kind of do something similar in my mind with Cena, except maybe you go in the other direction a little bit, because where Mundo's really brash, again to your point, I think Cena would just have this sickening sincerity to him. So yeah, I think that could definitely work.
Yeah, so I mean, really, you could do Cena versus, say, for example, name a big baby face. Do we even have any big baby? I feel like Cage's recent heel turn kind of ruined that.
I mean, did he turn heel, though, or is he just a guy that's just kind of struggling because of supernatural forces?
I guess sympathetic heel would be the appropriate classification.
Yeah, because I don't hate Cage by any means.
With a backstory,
Yeah, I don't know.
But still, I mean, even pre-Gauntlet, Cage versus John Cena would have been a great feud.
Definitely.
And the crowd, the temple, would have been firmly behind Cage in that, too.
Hell, if you'd want to go, the current guard, the guy holding down the fort versus this guy coming in, Puma versus Cena, I think would have been interesting. Because they built the brand around Puma, and then Cena comes in and he, squats.
I mean, hell, let's just go there. Pentagon versus Cena.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's the feud, Ashton. That's the feud right there. Because what would everybody want? Pentagon to break his arm. I know some people
Yeah.
suggested Matanza, but Matanza's still
And
like
the
you would
beautiful thing
kill.
too is that, like,
So,
even
yeah,
though Cena isn't the best actor, I think he has the acting chops to be able to pull off Lucha Underground's cinematic style.
I do too. I mean, hell, here's the thing, dude. If we're being honest, like a lot of people knock Johnny Mundo and his promo chops for years, but I feel like he works perfectly in the cinematic format because he doesn't
Yeah.
have to talk for an extended time and it's all shot and everything. So yeah, if he can do it and he got knocked about it for years, John Cena certainly can. I have no
Yeah.
doubt about that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was the final question from Shay. Let's move on. Up next, we had 4 questions from Brandon Best, starting with a question for both of us. Now that Tommaso Ciampa's in NXT, who's going to take his place in PWG shoving thumbs up Chuck Taylor's ass?
I feel like one of the young bucks should take that role because they just seem goofy like that. But if not them, I mean, hell, maybe Chuck Taylor's best friend Trent, because who else are you going to trust to put their thumb up your ass than your best friend? So yeah, I think I'll say Trent.
I would say Matt Riddle.
You know what? I love that answer too. So there you go. I say Trent, you say Matt Riddle. I think we can move on.
All right, second question from Brandon is specifically for you, John. As a 3 Days Grace fan, do you prefer Adam Grantier or Matt Walst?
And you and I were speaking about this in conversation when we were compiling these questions. I think I've only ever really known old 3 Days Grace. Like, I haven't really heard much of their newer stuff, but I love their old stuff. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to say old, but maybe that's only because I really haven't listened to much of the news. So, yeah, I'm going to say old for now. Next.
So I guess that would be Grantier, right?
Yes, Grantier.
All right, next question also from Brandon for both of us. What wrestlers, independent or otherwise, could you imagine buying and wearing an official TWitWoW t-shirt to the ring?
I'm still trying to get Johnny Mundo to get one because that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Chris Wolf, who I know is a Scum Squad member, but maybe I got to try and make that pitch again.
I'll go ahead and say it, Marty the Moth.
Yeah, Marty seems so down with TWitWoW and the cause, and actually on top of that, oh my God, Cobra Moon, Thunder Rosa, like elsewhere, because she loves the show and we love her, so it'd be a great relationship there. And despite the fact that I've insulted him multiple times and he really doesn't owe us anything, I could see me persuading Cage, like, what a machine really looks good with? TWitWoW merch. So yeah, I'll even put Cage.
I don't know if they sell the t-shirts that we produce in his size, honestly.
We'll make it work.
He would look like the Hulk. He would put the shirt on and then he would flex and there would just be multiple tears in the shirt everywhere.
Well, then maybe he should be a transformer and shrink so that he could fit in the shirt, I
don't think that's how Transformers work, but it doesn't even matter. Let's move on. Up next, we have... I got a question from Brandon, specifically for me. And he basically brought up that there have been certain people who I've said, oh, well, that person seems like a Raw guy, or that seems like a SmackDown girl, or whatever. And he wants to know what criteria I use to kind of identify what performers are going to get drafted to Raw or SmackDown Live. And my answer is really, first of all, I will admit, it's very much subjective. It's more gut feeling than anything. But if I had to put a finger on what gave me those gut feelings, I think it's probably like what I think Vince perceives as a finished product versus someone that is more of a test case. So like with Samoa Joe had experience in TNA. He's got the pedigree of being able to work in front of American crowds and get over and succeed. He did the same thing in NXT, so Vince kind of knew that it translated from one promotion to another. So you can trust that guy on Raw. Whereas with a guy like Nakamura, even though you do know for a fact that he worked in Japan and then he worked well in NXT, I think Vince still kind of questioned whether he would translate to the larger, more casual demographic of the main roster. So his decision would be put him on SmackDown. Let's see if we can get him to work. And then next year at this time, if Nakamura is the king of the freaking world, then we're bringing him over to Raw because Raw's the A show, again, in Vince's mind.
Right. I can agree with your sentiments there.
I mean, you can even look at last year for the draft, because last year for the draft, the only female who got called up to Raw was Nia Jax. And really, Nia Jax is one of those people where I think Vince kind of doesn't care if she's a good wrestler or not. all he cares about is that she is good enough to be carried to a compelling match by just using her size and intimidation. And because of that, he was okay with putting her on Raw. But then you get Carmella and Alexa Bliss, who were both relatively unproven in NXT with high upside, but they could have been great. You bring them up over to SmackDown as sort of a trial run. And yeah, that's kind of what my logic says, is basically if it's somebody that I think Vince would perceive as a complete finished product, they're probably going to go to Raw. If it's somebody that Vince might be more hesitant about, but is already kind of, like they're on the brink where you need to call them up, he'll put them on SmackDown and have a trial run with them there.
Can't disagree with anything you've said. Let's move on.
All right, we have 4 questions from Rotten Butter in the YouTube comments. First question, and all 4 of these are for both of us. First question, what are some cool things that you guys have watched, read, or played this month?
Watched, read, or played? I'll tell you, this month, me and my family, not this current season because we're waiting for that to hit Netflix, but we watched the season before last, I think season 4 of Bates Motel. That was really good. So we just finished that out this month. Still watching the newest season of The Challenge. That was great. As far as played, I mean, they're older games, so it's not really anything new, but I've been playing Hitman Go, a great kind of puzzle game, really gets my mind going. You said read as well?
Yep.
Actually, I haven't been doing any reading lately. Well, I mean, I have, but it's really just like scholarly kind of technical stuff. So I won't even really go there. So yeah, I think that does it for me. And you and I are both enjoying this current season of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it's one of the best arcs the show has done. So
I mean,
yeah,
not only S.H.I.E.L.D., but also we're catching up, and now season 2 just ended this past Wednesday. Seasons 1 and 2 of The Magicians.
Yeah, great sci-fi show.
It
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
dude. It's not even sci-fi; it's full-blown fantasy. It's great.
No, I meant sci-fi is in the network.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is though. It's great. I mean, the beautiful thing about it, it really does kind of have almost like a Harry Potter vibe, but not the kind of Harry Potter vibe in like, it's meant for, young adults and it takes place in a school and, they have all these wands that they can cast spells and stuff. The thing is, it's more meant for adults, not necessarily like young teenagers. It's more meant for, a more mature audience. And like there's been a full-blown rape that was not explicitly shown, but implicitly shown. So it's not a show for kids. And, it's kind of Harry Potter for adults, but I think it's better because it's more long form. So you really get to know the characters over time. So really, I guess it would be if Harry Potter would have been a TV show for adults, that's what The Magicians is.
Couldn't have articulated it better. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we mentioned this in our last Q&A. I don't even know if this was something that we watched before or after our last Q&A, but Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency is great.
That's insanely good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That ending, though.
Yeah, we watched season 1 and season 2, I believe, is coming out in October or November, and I'm wholly looking forward to it. It looks great. It's a great show, and season 2 looks even better.
I've just started digging into it with the family, and I know like this is an older show, but they said this month, so I guess it really doesn't matter if the thing in itself is old or new. Sons of Anarchy. And seeing as how I'm just a fucked up individual, the things that are supposed to be dark, I've just been laughing my ass off. So yeah, great unintentional comedy on my watching list for sure.
All right, so up next we had let's see, second question from Rotten Butter. What match has made you the most upset? Be it because of the outcome, the match itself, or whatever.
What match has made me the most upset? Well, outside of every time Johnny Mundo failed to capture the world title until he finally did, I have to say Jeff Hardy versus Sting, because I'm just like, oh, Jeff, come on. Because, like, it's not even like a TNA thing or whatever, but, like, Jeff as a person seems like a cool guy, and you know very well that I know what it's like to, like, have drugs in my family and stuff, so I hate seeing that. And yeah, just seeing that, I was kind of shaking my head, and I'm like, man, I hope you get it together. And it seems like he has now. But at the time, yeah, all I could do was shake my head, and I'm like, God damn, that is bad. So yeah, I definitely say that match is one that definitely sticks out. What about you?
Yeah, man, probably, man. I feel like Brock versus Goldberg at Survivor Series was one that I was really frustrated with. Um, I feel like there was a TNA match that involved the Dudley Boys where they went to do a power bomb, and when they lifted the guy up for the power bomb, the referee took a bump, even though there was clearly like by a foot and a half, visibly no contact made.
Right.
That match legitimately put me in a bad mood. And I think the only other match that I can really remember, just not even just being frustrated, but just flat out hating, is Edge versus John Cena TLC in Toronto.
That's right. Yeah, that match. Because isn't that the match that you just like, all right, I'm done, and you just weren't a Cena fan anymore?
Yeah,
Because you
well,
went from
that
like
and
reportedly,
between
yeah.
that and him beating JBL in like 11 minutes at WrestleMania,
Right.
those were the two. Yeah.
Oh, that was another match that upset me too. That Texas Bull Rope match where JBL won the title because I was such a big Eddie Guerrero fan at the time. I'm like, oh no, he got screwed out of the title. No. Oh man, yeah. Wrestling's great when it can rattle your cage. But yeah, those are just my answers. You gave a few good ones. Anything else you want to say?
Next question: what is your greatest fear? I'm going to answer this right away. I have the worst fear of heights, admittedly, and it's weird because I'm 6'6", so you wouldn't expect someone so tall to be afraid of being up high. But yeah, I am very scared of heights. I get like even like if I'm watching like a movie and somebody is like standing on top of a building and the right camera angle just catches how far up they are, my stomach churns a little bit.
I'm kind of a bitch. Admittedly, I fear everything, admittedly. But I mean, if we're really taking fear to its, to a more abstract place, I definitely say I fear failure. Like I am a big time perfectionist. I still am to this day. Not as much as I used to be, admittedly, which I think is a good thing because I think you have to learn that it's okay to fail sometimes. It's just going to happen. But yeah, I hate it, and I'm definitely afraid of it, especially when I'm working in a more professional context, because I would hate to think that I've let people down. So yeah, that's definitely my biggest fear is just failure, and specifically professional failure. Absolutely. But yeah, outside of
Yeah,
that,
I mean, I don't know. I don't really have that much of a fear of failure just because I don't really know how I would define failure. Like maybe I would define failure as like going all in on something and having it not work, but I've experienced that already with I mean, obviously things that didn't matter in the sense that they changed my life or anything, but I've definitely had it happen before in less meaningful aspects of my life. So it's not, it's not like I'm completely unable to grasp that concept or that feeling. Another weird thing with me, I don't want to say that I fear needles, but
right.
I have passed out, or not passed out. I have nearly passed out twice having my blood taken. One time when I was like, I want to say like 15-ish years old, and they took 6 tubes of blood from me. And when I was done, I had to go out into the waiting room, and I like laid across one of like the padded sofas that they have in waiting rooms, and like I could feel the walls closing in on me,
Right.
and like I had to chug some water and just kind of like snap myself out of it. And then the second one was I was sitting in the doctor's office. They took 8 tubes of blood from me, and I again like I was getting tinglies on the back of my neck, and I could feel the walls closing in. And then the nurse knew that I had almost passed out in a previous blood taking experience, and she gave me smelling salts, and that snapped me right the hell out of it.
God damn. I'd say one more kind of overwhelming fear I have at times is really just of my disability generally, and like in different facets. Like in one facet, I worry about getting old with this disability because it's bad enough to deal with things like arthritis and your organs functionality kind of diminishing, which is just natural
Oh
with
yeah,
age.
that's another thing. Speaking of needles, any kind of anything in your eye is a major like phobia of mine. Like any
Yeah.
just the idea of getting anything in your eye makes me like my toes curl and my stomach churns and I just feel like I want to die.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, but back to what I was saying, like, just that aging and kind of dealing with that on top of what I already deal with in a more social economic sense, especially in the current climate, like I always were. I even had a dream last night that, like, I lost my Social Security, and then I'm wondering, like, how am I going to help provide for my family? Like, how am I going to do my part? So, yeah, it's a real pain in the ass. And thankfully, I haven't taken up any unhealthy vices to deal with it, and it wouldn't matter anyway because those bastards would learn to swim. But yeah, definitely some of my biggest fears for sure. Definitely on more of a psychological level.
All right, so fourth and final question from Rotten Butter. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I have the answer to this question, and when you hear this answer, you're never going to have to contemplate what the answer to this question is ever again, because you're going to know that there's only one right answer, and it's the one that I'm providing you right now. You ready for this?
Do it.
A toothpick.
Perfect. Let's move on, because I can't top that. I was just going to say,
Cliff them all. Cliff them all had 4 questions for us. So all 4 of them are for both of us. First question. Okay, out of the list of the 2 of us, Ashton and John, Ella, Brandon, Paul, Javaris, BCVTS, Alex, Mafdet, and James, pick a wrestler that would perfectly represent each person, i.e. Cliff would be Randy Orton because their shoulders are better than the rest. And he also added a note that gender doesn't have to factor in. So, I mean, Johnny Mundo, that's a pretty easy one. Do you have someone other than Johnny Mundo that you think would represent yourself?
If things had turned out differently, I would have said Chris Benoit, but I don't really know if I want that stigma.
Dan, if you say if things would have turned out differently, to me, if things would have turned out differently, Damian Sandow.
Yeah, that too. That's the one I'll go with. Damian Sandow. He doesn't have a stigma right now. I'll go with that.
All right. How about me?
Oh, you know what? I mean, again, because I don't even really think so much about your physical attributes as much as I do the mental. And I've always said like a Kevin Nash type, or like just a really
that
surreal
fits
type.
Too. That fits because I'm almost as tall as Kevin Nash.
Yeah, like Kevin Nash, or like an Edge, like, because he was very cerebral. Not Triple H though, because he's just a prick.
Dude, just end it. I'm taking Kevin Nash. That's my pick.
All right.
All right. Ella.
Oh man.
She's not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say Dolph Ziggler anyway.
You know what? Screw it. She loves her so much. Let her be her. I'm gonna say Charlotte. Screw it.
There you go. Just to be clear, I'm picking Dolph Ziggler because Dolph Ziggler has some really weird favorite people, and he admires some really weird choices for people to admire. And yeah, that's something that I associate Ella with as well.
Okay.
So let's see. Who else? Brandon. I mean, obviously, Aleister Black, right?
I was going to say, yeah, Aleister Black. I'm not even going to, we're sharing that one.
Okay, Paul. This is a tougher one because, Paul, let's see. He hates his father. He's very self-deprecating. I mean, he is British, and most British people are self-deprecating, so...
I feel like CM Punk would kind of be a good fit for him. Because I feel like he's got that, edge to his personality a little bit. Plus, doesn't Punk not have a father either? Doesn't he have daddy issues? So...
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like daddy issues are the most commonly undiagnosed illness in the U.S.
Yeah, really.
That's terrible. Let's see. Paul. Let's... I'm going to roll with Marty Scurll.
Yeah, that works. That works. I'll go with Lord Steven Regal for Paul, because he's like, nah, I hate CM Punk. So yeah, you'll get Lord Steven Regal because you're British, and I just pigeonholed you. So there you go.
Wow. How about Javaris?
Oh, man. I'm going to say WW. No, you know what? I'm going to say a Harlem Heat like Booker T. I feel like that works because he's like, I'm going to beat you like I stole something, which is pretty much the friendly equivalent of, we coming for you, So, yeah, I'm going to say Harlem Heat Booker T for Javaris.
My first instinct was MVP, but then I realized that's probably not the best. But you know what? I'm gonna say the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, because Javaris is by far the most generous donor to our Patreon.
That is so true. Yeah, so he's got like the toughness of like but the wealth of Ted DiBiase. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. Good stuff.
Javaris Ted DiBiase Carter. All right, BCVTS. Let's see, man.
Well, I already have my answer. Santino Marella, because she will always and forever do the job. So yeah, I guess now you go.
I'll say Santina Morella because she's a girl.
Well, there you go.
Actually, believe it or not, the first thing I said to Cliff when he brought this up was, well, James and Bullet Club versus the Shield are going to be each other because they're like the exact same person.
Well, yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that.
And just gender doesn't matter. Obviously, I'm gonna roll with BCVTS I'm gonna roll with BCVTS and James being each other.
Yeah, that works. I sign on to that wholeheartedly.
I just saw James in the chat talking about he wants to kill himself. Alex Foster. Who's Alex Foster?
I love how
to me, Alex Foster. This is easy. I'm gonna say Seth Rollins.
Oh, Alex Foster's totally Bailey. Because if gender doesn't matter, yeah, he's Bailey. I'm laying that card down.
I'm sticking with Seth Rollins for Alex. Mafdet is Steven Richards in The Right to Censor.
You know what? Yes. I can't top that. I have to steal that one. Yes.
And then the other person left was James, who I already gave to BCVTS.
Yeah, James. Because BCTS.
James can be Johnny Curtis.
You know, I think with James, I'll just give him Ryback because they're both failures and their heads are both weird. So that still works. So yeah, James can be Ryback.
I'm gonna give James Johnny Curtis. Bullet Club versus the Shield seems very, very... Dude, Cliff, you already told us that you were Randy Orton. What more do you want us to say?
Yeah, really. I mean, granted, his shoulder he did hurt it taking out the garbage. So I think you actually have the superior shoulder in that case.
You know what? No, I'm going to pick Cliff is Mickie James and Trish Stratus, or Becky Lynch is his Trish Stratus.
There you go. I'll double down on the Orton thing because, I mean, you rolled with it initially. You die by that sword, brother. So, yeah, you're Randy Orton.
Okay, so we have people up in arms. Okay. Bullet Club versus the Shield. I don't know where John came up with Santino for you. I legitimately have no clue why he said that. I was joking when I said Santina, but honestly, you and James act extremely similar, and you literally just said "suck my dick," so that doesn't really give me any less reason to think that you're literally James in disguise.
Maybe that's the longing. Maybe that's the longing to be Adam Cole. So, but you know.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. Let's say Bullet Club versus the Shield is Adam Cole.
I mean, I guess, but Adam Cole's actually done stuff. You know what? Begrudgingly,
Bullet Club versus the Shield is Adam Cole. James, I said someone for James. Who did I mention for James? Oh, Mickie James. Mickie, yeah. Or no, that was who? That was Cliff, right? Cliff was Mickie James. James is Joey Ryan, not Bullet Club versus the Shield. Yeah. But I already said James and Bullet Club versus the Shield are like the same person. So me saying that James is Joey Ryan is basically just the same thing as saying Bullet Club versus the Shield. But I'm going to say Bullet Club versus the Shield is Adam Cole. James is Joey Ryan. So there you go. And Cliff them all, you're Mickie James. So enjoy that.
All right. Do we have any more names? This question's really gotten crazy.
That was the last bit.
Awesome.
That was only the first question from Cliff, though. So second question from Cliff. Name a wrestler that you thought was awful and then turned out to become great. He mentions Miz for him.
Well, I would have said Miz for me, too, because I feel like he's doing some of the best work of his career. I mean, Naito was a big revelation for both of us, though. He was never awful. He was just kind of mad. But to go from
dude, Naito is it for me. Naito is it for me, because I thought he was boring as hell when I first saw him, and then Los Ingobernables happened and changed his life and changed my life along with it.
People that I thought were awful, and then they turn it around. You know, I think I'd say that about, like, a Matt Riddle, because, like, when he was on PWG, I never really took note of him, but then when I saw his name more, like, I gave him a more intimate look, and I'm like, you know what? I actually really dig this. So I think he'll be my answer, actually. That works.
You know what? I'm also, because I already brought up Seth Rollins to be Alex Foster, and just to be clear, the reason for that is because When I think of Alex Foster, I think of like video games, and when I think of Seth Rollins, I think of the Madden tournament.
Yeah.
So that fits. Maybe Xavier Woods would be a more adept pick for Alex.
Yeah, I mean, that works. I definitely think that, because I think they also both have that otaku side, too. Like, they really love the anime and stuff.
Well, in
So,
that case,
Xavier's
then
actually
Alex Foster is Sasha Banks.
that could, I'd say Xavier or Sasha would work, really. So,
Because
really just a
Sasha's a
matter of
total
preference.
weeb, man. Sasha's a weeb.
Yeah, and Alex even said works for me. So, yeah, I guess that's what we'll go with.
All right. Man, where were we? Oh, talking about wrestlers that we thought were awful. And that's why I wanted to bring back up Seth Rollins, because I thought he was terrible as a talker in Ring of Honor, and then he turned out to become great in WWE.
I like that answer. Let's move on.
Up next, we have another question from Cliff. Besides the comics, what do you propose that Lucha Underground can do during their offseason to stay fresh in fans' minds? This is a really tough one for me because I'm really good at making compelling content, but I'm a horrible marketer.
You know, the best thing I can think of, and I'll be the first to admit that this answer is weak, but like you, I have a difficulty. I would love if they did bumpers. Like, you know how you and I one night just sat down and we watched the slew of those Marvel bumpers together? I would like if Lucha Underground would drop those every once in a while to just kind of tease, like, rather than just a trailer, which is great. Their trailers have been phenomenal. I'd like little bumpers of stuff. Even, you know, I don't really know how they could do that, but I think that'd be a cool marketing play that would kind of stay in the spirit of what they're doing for me personally. But that's the best answer I can come up with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, to me, I think that Lucha Underground needs to do a way better job of putting out video content that updates the fans on the underside, the ingoings, the ongoings of the temple. So, for example, when the May 31st return date was announced, they should have had somebody in the temple, even if it was like an Eric Van Wagenen or a Krista Joseph, somebody in the temple who is either working behind the scenes or a performer, either one works, or maybe even Dario. Dario would be perfect for this. Get a video of them saying, we'll come back, blah, blah, blah. We just needed this and that. And you know, let people know, A, we're coming back. B, here's our kayfabe explanation for it. C, we're keeping ourselves fresh in your minds.
Right.
And then you make that video, you upload it to YouTube, and you promote the shit out of it. To me, that's the biggest problem I've noticed with Lucha Underground is when they upload stuff to YouTube, like, for example, say they upload like a full match to YouTube from an episode of the show, they don't promote it. They should promote it on like wrestling forums and Reddit and everything other than just like posting it to their own Twitter. Like that, to me, that's the weakest, laziest form of promoting your content possible.
Yeah, I can totally understand where you're coming from. I actually really dig that answer, and I don't really know what I could add. I just really liked how that was articulated.
Yeah, so let's see. Next up, fourth and final question from Cliff. If Adam Cole, a.k.a. Brock Vaughn, formed the Kingdom 2.0 in NXT, pick two guys and a gal to take the places of Michael Bennett, Matt Taven, and Maria Kanellis.
Kimberly, I think, would fit the Maria Kanellis role quite well because I've seen her as a heel, and I think she kind of gives off that vibe that would really work.
You realize that Maria was like a sex object with the Kingdom, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I still think she could play the role well, though, and
that's like the furthest possible thing from what Kimberly is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I still feel like she could pull it off. Personally, like I'm sticking with it because I'm thinking about, I mean, maybe Billy or Peyton, but I feel like that's also pretty far from what they are. We really haven't seen anything from Kimberly in NXT, so I feel like she's kind of like this blank slate, and you've got to start somewhere. I think her being in a faction would give her that great exposure. So I'll say her. And then as far as the Mike Bennett and the Matt Taven part, that's a bit difficult for me. Do you have any ideas on that front?
I would say to replace Matt Taven, I would go Buddy Murphy.
I like that because we haven't seen him in a while. So yeah, Buddy Murphy, I can
I
get
don't
behind.
think you need to replace Michael Bennett. I think Michael Bennett is going to show up in NXT sooner than later, so you can just use him.
Yeah, you know what? That works. Buddy Murphy
And you know what?
Mike
So
Bennett
is
might be.
Maria. So like, screw replacing them. Let's just reform the Kingdom with Buddy Murphy instead of Matt Taven, or better yet, maybe WWE can sign Matt Taven and we can just have the literal Kingdom in NXT.
I'd be down with that, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I really do like the idea of Buddy Murphy getting in on that action because we haven't seen him in a while, and like the last thing we did see of him was that gorgeous shooting star press. We need to get him back on NXT tapings, so I'm really down with that idea for sure.
Yeah, I guess Mandy Rose would fit in the Maria Kanellis role. I've seen a few people say that in chat.
Yeah, that actually isn't a bad idea. We haven't seen her in a while either. Or Matthew Bronson, who I got updated a few days ago, hasn't been released. But
yes, he has.
He has? Because I heard that he apparently wasn't. So who's right here?
I literally just heard, like, within the last 2 days that he got released.
From who, though? What was your source?
And it's Bronson Matthews, by the way. But yeah, Josh from Tough Enough.
Yeah.
Brettel from Tough Enough. Let me look him up real quick. Okay. Now I'm seeing that he's not going from WWE. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, yeah, that's... I was reading, I saw on a bunch of different websites that he had some kind of concussion issues and that he had to quit the business already. So it's good to know that they're not giving up on him already and that he's going to still be around. But, I mean, he doesn't really fit in with the Kingdom, does he?
No, he doesn't. I don't even know how that name originally came up. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, we need to get Buddy Murphy back on NXT TV. So I think he'd fit in so well. Yeah.
Yeah. James is angry that we brought up Buddy Murphy because he got Alexa and James can't have her now.
Well, James really can't have anyone, so it's just a day that ends in Y as far as I'm concerned. Next question.
We have 4 questions from Ace the Skylord. First one, with Nakamura and Dillinger out of NXT, who do you see filling the top babyface role over there?
Hideo. I can answer that quite simply. Hideo Itami is definitely into the top babyface now.
Yeah, I mean, we're replacing Nakamura and Dillinger with Itami, and it seems like McIntyre, honestly.
McIntyre, and depending on where he goes, because I feel like he's kind of cooled down a little bit. Maybe Cassius Ohno, but I'm actually kind of hoping he turns heel soon. So.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring him up, because I think he's going to end up being a heel within the next month or 2.
Right.
So, second question from Ace the Skylord. WWE changes the format. What would you say if WWE sort of changed the format of WrestleMania to make it a 2-part show, Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 4 hours each with no pre-show? You think that would be a good thing or a bad thing? To me, that's definitely the wave of the future. That's what they need to do. WrestleMania weekend is already a multiple-day event. Why not just extend it a little bit? I mean, really, that's just more revenue for WWE.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm right there with you. I love the idea. When I read it from Ace, I would totally affix my signature in support of that. That sounds like an amazing idea.
All right. Up next, we had a second question from Ace. WWE, now that Undertaker is retired, do you think that Mark Calloway, who played Undertaker, will have a backstage role in WWE in the future?
Oh, absolutely.
No, I don't think he will. I think it's that now that he's done in the wrestling business, he's going to leave the wrestling business for good.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who's going to be a complete shut-in and just want to be left alone for the rest of his life.
And that very well may be, and he certainly earned that time. I just think he's a guy that was so loyal to WWE and really was like one of their defining guys. I don't know if he could ever fully disassociate himself from the business. So I just can't fathom him not having any kind of hand in it in the future. So I definitely think he'll have a backstage role at some point.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I think he's done. Fourth and final question. This is for Johnny Scumbag. What is a Mojo Rawley and why does it exist?
Mojo Rawley is that thing that makes me wake up, and when I reflect upon its existence, I wish I was dead. Why it exists is to show you that all those things that you're told, like, oh, you can be anything, and everybody has a talent if they just look deep inside them. It's a fucking lie. It's a lie. because this guy told himself, hey, I want to be a professional wrestler. And while, yeah, we can say, but he's with WWE, so didn't he achieve that dream? Yeah, living a dream and living it well are two different things, and the guy just fucking sucks. So, yeah, I think, why does a Mojo Rawley exist? I think it's both to show us that there is a certain comfort that comes with death, and to remind us that not everybody is fucking special. Some people really are just straight up putrid. That's why I think a Mojo Rawley exists.
Okay. So, up next, we have 4 questions from Javaris Carter. First one is for both of us. First 3 are for both of us, and then we have another Johnny Scumbag question. First question, if booked correctly, do you think Luke Harper could become WWE champion before the end of 2017? And since you just went, I'll go now. Look, man, I appreciate the effort here, but if anyone is booked correctly, they could become WWE champion before 2017. The problem is it's the WWE, and they don't book anyone correctly for the most part. Harper has a way better chance of being booked correctly on SmackDown, but I still don't think that he's going to be champion by the end of the year. Now, could he be if booked correctly? Yes, but I'm not going to count on WWE to book anyone correctly, period.
I think you echoed my sentiments pretty well. I do think Harper has an amazing upside as a babyface. So in an ideal world where we're keeping that babyface momentum on a healthy trajectory, absolutely before the end of the year, that guy, even if he's not holding the WWE title, he would be a big part of that conversation for sure. So I'm going to say yes to that. But again, with everything that Ashton just said on top of it, because I feel like that was articulated quite well. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. We can move on.
All right, next question from Javaris. Which fight between Goku and Vegeta was better, the first one or the second one that happened during the Buu saga?
I'll always be fond of the first one because we got to see everything in that first fight, from a beam struggle to ape transformation, and even the beginnings of that dynamic. Like, no, Krillin, spare him. He might be good. And Yajirobe, yeah. So the first one had a lot more going on. The second one wasn't bad, but I really feel like it was just like trying to create a purpose for Boo's existence, and then we do the big stuff like Vegeta's sacrifice and Boo's destruction and all that stuff. So I think, you know what, I'm gonna say the first one I think holds up better than the second one, though I am a fan of both. But yeah,
I don't even remember the second one, so my default answer is the first one.
Hooray! Next.
Up next, third question from Javaris Carter. If not for his death, do you think Pero Aguayo Jr. would have found his way to Lucha Underground? And that's an easy yes from me. I think he definitely would have.
Absolutely, 100% yes. Him and Taya were very close, and I feel like that friendship would have gotten him here. And I think he also had close ties to Pentagon. So just the people that he knew that were there, it was only a matter of time. And yeah, definitely a yes to that.
All right. Final question for Johnny Scumbag. You're locked in a room with Alberto Del Rio, Sami Zayn, and Taguchi. You have a gun and 1 bullet, but you're not allowed to shoot yourself. Who do you shoot?
I'm going to be honest. This is Jarveris, correct? Yeah. I'm going to be honest, Jarveris. I originally was tempted to, do the math last night, do a few Google searches and whatnot to figure out what trajectory I could shoot the bullet so that it kills all 3 of them and just blow you away with my math skills. But I don't think you would have bought that horse shit. So I'm going to say I'd shoot Sami Zayn. And it's not even because it's Sami Zayn. No, I actually get erect thinking about the sadness I would cause shooting that man in the fucking face and the hatred that would await me when I walk out that door. Because, you killed one of the best wrestlers in the world, and you spared these 2, they're so awful. Knowing that I caused that much agony and suffering would more than make up for any suffering that I endured in that room. So yeah, Sami Zayn square in the fucking face for sure.
Jesus Christ.
Next.
We have 4 questions from James.
All right.
Question 1 from James. We all know that Titus O'Neil is the man to lead WWE into the future. Will he be a WWE champion or a Universal champion first?
Oh, I'm gonna have you go first on this one since the last one was a Johnny Scumbag question.
God damn it! Why would you do this?
Uh,
He'll be a Universal Champion first because he's on a Raw and literally no other reason.
you know what? I'm gonna agree with that because I mean the belt looks like a goddamn fruit roll-up, and the Titus brand will probably get a deal with that snacking company, so it's just the perfect natural tie-in to me. So yeah, Universal Championship for sure.
Okay, second question. FMK, Magic Johnson, Charlie Sheen, Bon Jovi. You want me to take this one first too?
Yeah.
Okay, Bon Jovi's getting the bullet between the eyes. Charlie Sheen's getting the D. Magic Johnson's getting the ring.
I'm gonna agree with you about Bon Jovi.
I wonder if Tiger Blood is sexually transmittable, because if so, that reaffirms my position on the D to Charlie Sheen.
I'm gonna agree with you about Bon Jovi getting the bullet. However, I'm gonna marry Charlie Sheen. I'm gonna give the D to Magic Johnson because this world's going to shit anyway. I don't think any of us are gonna live long, so I'd like to have a little bit of Russian roulette with my death going on. So yeah, I definitely think the D with Magic Johnson would definitely be where I'd go. So yeah, that works.
Dude, they both have. Dude, I'm. You know what? I don't actually know anything about Bon Jovi, but I'm guessing the entire point of this question is that literally all three of them have HIV, or just full blown AIDS.
James is like Bon Jovi is the only one without HIV. That's some Saw bullshit right there. Oh, you know, there are three people. Two of them have HIV. Who do you choose? But which one is it? But yeah, I'm sticking with it, man. Okay, because I've even
I mean, shit, man. If you're shooting one of the other two guys, their blood's gonna be pouring out. There's a chance you get it from that too.
Yeah, really. So I'm sticking with my answer. I'm guessing you're sticking with yours. Next question.
And besides, don't even act like Bon Jovi doesn't have an assload of STDs to go along with it. He's a freaking rock star.
Exactly.
Christ. He's got a freaking buffet line of STDs as well.
Oh my god, what even is this right now?
And plus, ending Bon Jovi just puts an end to all that horrible music and all those obnoxious old screaming women that love him so much.
What's James's next question?
If you had a choice between feeding 1,000 starving children or winning $1 million, what would you invest the $1 million in?
I've actually thought about what I would do if I ever came into like a shit ton of money, especially on the investment front. I think I would invest in developing like communes like I see in socialist countries like Venezuela and Cuba. That'd be kind of my socialist experiment here in the States before the feds would come and shut them down and put a bullet in my head. So yeah, definitely opening up anarcho-communist communes with that money. So yeah, that'd be my answer. What would you invest it in?
Dude, how much do you think $1 million buys these days?
I'm guessing not much in this shitty economy, but hey, a man can dream, right?
Not an entire commune, that's for damn sure.
Well, hey, I said it, it happened. What are you going to invest yours in?
My $1 million, let's see, I would pay off my student loan, I would buy myself a vehicle, I would move west to California, I would probably buy myself like a $2,500 gaming desktop, and then I would put the rest of the money into a high-interest savings account and live off of the interest for the rest of my life.
Oh, that sounds sensible. All right, well, we got our answers there. Let's move on.
Okay. Fourth and final question from James. What are your thoughts on the civil war in Syria that's left over 1 million dead and over 10 million as refugees displaced? And, of course, how do you think that we can bring the world together to fix the issue?
Oh, geez, another political question. I always feel like every time I open my mouth on these, I instantly regret it the morning
Dude, I'm not even going to touch this. I have literally no opinion on this matter. So apologies to James for me not being able to properly answer your question, but I have no freaking clue.
The only thing I'm going to say about it, because my knowledge isn't that extensive either, Ashton, but I mean, like, I've heard bits and pieces over the years. And really, again, this is why I really don't like opening up my mouth, because I never know, like, how people perceive me after the fact, but fuck it. Like, I think U.S. imperialism needs to cease. I really kind of get sick to my stomach when they talk about human rights, when really that's just to kind of manipulate another agenda. the bombing campaigns in the Middle East and all these other parts are what create refugees to begin with. That's what destabilizes regions. So you ask me how we can bring the world together. How about keeping your goddamn dick in your pants in the sense of don't go waging war with everybody so you can expand your resources and your land. And really, another thing I want to say about Syria, at the risk of putting my foot in my mouth, I think, again, what really scares me about the human rights thing, I am very uncomfortable, and I talked to my sister about this, about the fate of Syria and the Syrian people being determined by external forces. I think if Assad is as terrible as like the reports are coming out that he is, and I'm not saying one way or the other, and, I just want to make that perfectly clear, the destiny needs to be in the hands of the Syrian people. That's their government, that's their nation. I don't like the idea of us imposing those kinds of Western values on them and unseating a guy and possibly putting a puppet dictator in his place, or just somebody that kind of spouts our values and our policies. I think Syrians need to, guide their own destiny. Absolutely. And I hope that's what happens. And I hope that U.S. imperialism, somebody, bucks up against it, because I think that's what's causing all these crises. I mean, we live in a globalist age. You need a global consciousness, in my mind, with everything going on. And, with Trump, I think U.S. imperialism is going to be on steroids. Not that it wasn't already. I just think that he's also incredibly erratic, talking about North Korea and stuff. But yeah, I definitely think that's a big part of it. I don't know if you like that answer, James, but it's just honestly how I feel. So there you go.
Yeah, he literally just asked that question to make everybody depressed so that they could feel his pain, apparently.
Well, apparently James didn't even like my answer. So, yeah, there you go. We can move on.
All right, next we have 3 questions from David Finara. A first question, what do you think of iDubbbz?
Oh, love him. From what we've seen of him, absolutely love the guy. Enough said. What about you?
I mean, yeah, I think some of his antics are a little bit more on the extreme side than I would have normally approved, but he's an entertaining guy, and he seems to do a good job of being relatively unbiased.
Yeah, I can agree with that wholeheartedly. Next question.
What discipline/subject would you introduce in schools for people to learn? John, do you want to take this, or should I?
I'll take it first, because I've said it before. I'll say it again. Philosophy. I mean, I'm even a part of initiatives that are meant to introduce philosophy into public schools. So that's my answer wholeheartedly. You?
My answer would be basic life skills: how to file taxes, how to write a check, how to pay the rent, how different stuff like that you don't really learn in a classroom for the most part these days, that are just useful for surviving in the real world.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that video that one kid did, where I don't know if it was kind of rapping or it was more poetry, but like he was talking about all the things like, why didn't we learn this in school?
Yeah,
And that video blew up.
don't stay in school is the name of the song.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I could definitely see where you're coming from and definitely sympathize with that for sure.
Yeah. All right, so next question, also from David Finara. Where do you think Ryback would fit better, Lucha Underground or New Japan? I'll answer New Japan.
Definitely New Japan. Completely agree with you there.
Yeah. All right, so then we have 4 questions from Iconic, who we've seen in the YouTube chat before, and this was the YouTube comment. First question, I don't think you're even going to be able to answer this, John. J.Cole or Kendrick Lamar? And I'm going to say Kendrick Lamar, but I don't think you're going to know.
Can't answer that. You passed on the Syrian one. I'm passing on this one. Next.
Top 5 shittiest video game franchises.
Oh, geez. So, I don't really know if I've played that many video game franchises, especially to name a top 5. Have you? Because, like, I know you're kind of a gamer.
I can name 2 immediately that I think are just cash cows that lost their substance a long time ago.
Okay.
Call of Duty and Halo.
See, and I never really even played any of those games. I hate to pass on 2 questions in a row. It seems awkward, but yeah, I've never really played many. Like, the only franchise I've really actively played, actually
Max
2.
Payne.
Well, Max Payne, but I feel like they never dipped. GTA, but again, like, that stopped at San Andreas. I haven't even played, like, the newer ones. Dragon Ball Z, they did have one, like, really shitty title, and that was Infinite World. That fucking sucked so much ass. I don't even know how it got fucking made. But yeah, like as far as like franchises that really went downhill, because I feel like DBZ kind of bounced back with Xenoverse, which I have, although that was really good. But yeah, I really can't say top 5 at all.
Yeah, I named 2. I'm not going to be able to go to 5 either. Third question: which mainstream YouTuber would you collaborate with, solo and as a team?
Oh God, collaborating gives me anxiety. I mean, we really like H3. I'm curious if he's a
Yeah.
wrestling fan because I think he'd be a really cool personality to work with. So yeah, I'll say Ethan Klein for sure. Like, would be my big answer. What about you?
Man, I mean, I think as a team, our best bet would just be to collaborate with PewDiePie, aim for the moon, and hope that we get as many viewers as possible.
Yeah.
Solo, I would want to collaborate with a guy named Matt Kelly who runs Roto Underworld, who is just an awesome football analyst who is very metrics based, kind of like the way I am, and I would love to work with him.
I think solo for me, like if I was just collaborating with somebody like just on wrestling or whatever, you know, Max Landis, another guy that we both love, I'd love to pick his brain about shit. So yeah, that'll be my answer on the more solo front. So
Yeah. All right. So then we had the fourth and final question from Iconic: if you could travel to any time period and stay there, where and why?
can you repeat the second half of that question? Was it about like whatever time period we'd go to?
If you could travel to any time period and stay there, where would you go and why? Or I guess not where would you go, but when would you go and why?
Oh, definitely revolutionary France. I think that was like the 18th century, I want to say, maybe even earlier. Because, I mean, the political climate, insane. Intellectually, they blew up both on the scientific side and the philosophical side. Like, I'd be right at home there. I'd probably get guillotined and die, but it would be an adventurous life for sure, and I'd enjoy it while I have it. So, yeah, definitely revolutionary France.
You know, I never thought I'd see the day that I had a similar or identical thought process to James, but like I have no interest in going to any time in the past unless we're talking about like one of those crazy time travel scenarios where like I can go back into my own life with the knowledge I have today and like change shit from like 20 years ago. Because like in that case, then yeah, I would go back to when I was like 7 or 8 years old and just do shit from there. But if we're just talking about me as I am right now, traveling to a different time period, I'm not going to the past. I'm going to the future. I'm going to like 2150 to see like where what we've become as a civilization.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not trying to go into the past because like to me, I'm just kind of biding my time waiting for the revolution to happen, and it seems like it's a damn far off away. Like I don't even know if I would be able to like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to witness any kind of real revolution in my lifetime, to be honest.
I'm still on the fence about that, actually. I think in one way, and I don't want to go on a big diatribe about this, but I feel like we're kind of a part of like this big political pressure cooker at present because things are happening in like all parts of the world, whether Europe or the Middle East and here in the US. On the other hand, though, people have continuously disappointed me, so I have no reason to think that they won't disappoint me again and not, you know, have like a revolutionary wave. So I'm kind of on the fence with it. Like I have your skepticism. On the other hand, though, I do have that optimism. Like, well, a lot is happening right now, so we'll see. But I can understand your sentiments to want to go into the future. There are just so many classical periods that I like love reading about and would have loved to experience firsthand. So yeah, that's just kind of my mindset.
Yeah, my whole thing there is like we know what's happened in the past. I don't really have any interest in re-experiencing it. I would rather I mean, if I had the option, I would rather just kind of scan the future and just kind of see like what the landscape is every like 5 years or so, and just keep moving forward until I find somewhere that I'm content with.
Right. There you go.
Or I mean, if I keep going forward and I get to the point when the sun blows up and takes the Earth with it, and I realize that humanity is literally never going to get better, then maybe I would go back in time.
Hey, man, nothing wrong with that.
All right. So next up, we had 4 questions from Ben Jr. First question, what was your favorite episode of Lucha Underground? His was Aztec Warfare 2. He loved that show so much he downloaded it onto his tablet.
The episode where Johnny Mundo won the world title. Like, I really can't say anything else than that. It's what I've been waiting for so many years.
That would be season 3, episode 12.
Yeah, season 3, episode 12 then, because I waited for that for years. And, I'm sorry, that is the sole reason for it. But when you wait for it as long as I have, I'm going all the way with it. So, yeah, definitely that one.
Yeah. So, Up next, we have... Question? No, I didn't. My favorite episode of Lucha Underground of all time is season 1, episode 29, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was episode 29. It was the episode where you had Johnny Mundo in his first heel match against Aerostar, and then we had a sit-down interview with Vampiro and Sexy Star talking about the whole Pentagon Jr. situation, and then you had Prince Puma versus Hernandez, and then you had a death match, Mil Muertes versus Phoenix. And then the final scene in that episode was Matanza eating Dale's face. So that episode was legendary.
Yeah, it was.
Second question from Ben Jr. What does the WWE have to do in order to get ratings like the Attitude Era?
I think stop thinking that they can get ratings like the Attitude Era. I think that was such a unique era. You're never going to replicate it. I think you could be more successful than you are now, but I think the parameters have changed. I just think, again, it kind of goes back to a question we answered much earlier in this, like old school and new school mindsets, and really everything Ashton answered. I think you could kind of apply that here to things they could do differently because it's all in the presentation. And I really don't see any commitment with WWE. I think they have a mindset, which I've heard a lot of fans talk about, like, oh, wins and losses don't matter, or what we do with this guy doesn't matter. I mean, you have a guy like Braun, for instance, that's been doing this amazing stuff, and yet on the Go Home Raw, he loses a dumpster match to Kalisto, of all people, who's done practically fuck all outside of his United States Championship reigns, which to me, in hindsight, were incredibly forgettable. So, I think they don't have their presentation down. If you work on the presentation, they'll come. I just think, yeah, it's something they really need to work on. And especially on the Raw side, it shows no sign of improving. So.
Yeah. Oh, man. As far as ratings go, I mean, honestly, I do think it would be possible, but damn, that's a stretch, man. That's not easy. That's something that it's not something that you can expect to get in months. That's something you have to build to years for, because the big problem is that the WWE right now is in a place where they can afford for television ratings to continue to drop, and they're still going to keep making more and more money because of other ad revenue or other revenues, period. Not ad revenues, other revenue, other streams of income that they have that aren't just, their television deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So, I mean, in order to get ratings back up, they would have to start caring about ratings again, and right now they don't.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, the apathy is painfully evident, and until that gets resolved, I don't see the needle moving in a positive direction anytime soon. So, yeah, I completely agree with you.
All right, so, man, that was what? Was that the second question, right? Second question from Ben Jr. So third question, in your opinion, what are 5 overrated and 5 underrated matches in WWE?
Well, I mean, definitely one overrated match to me was Michaels Taker WrestleMania 26. Not that was a bad match, but I still think the one they had at 25 was so much better. Let's see, what other kind of overrated match? I would agree with you, because I don't know if this is going to be on your list, but I know when we did the review, I think you kind of gave off that vibe. Rock Austin WrestleMania 19. Like, I thought it was a fun match. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. But, I think a lot of people tend to really put it on a pedestal that it may not deserve. What else? Yeah, that's 2 there. Can you think of any? Well, I'm kind of thinking on the overrated side.
Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose Hell in a Cell.
Definitely. Oh, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Hell in a Cell. Yeah, because so many people were like,
Oh
"Oh, it was so
yeah.
good." You know,
Oh yeah.
I hated that match.
I mean, and really adding on to that, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte versus Becky Lynch, WrestleMania 32.
I mean, I think I could co-sign on that, but at least I get why people love that match. That Hell in a Cell match, though, I
Shane
still
McMahon
can't
versus
imagine.
Undertaker, WrestleMania 32.
Yeah, if it really did get a lot of hype by people, definitely, that was bad.
Um,
That infamous TNA triple threat, it wasn't a bad match, but in hindsight, was it like the greatest thing ever? I think we've gotten so many things
Daniels
better.
Joe Styles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What about on the underrated side?
On the underrated side, I still think Randy Orton versus Goldust was underrated. That match that they had for Cody's job when they were doing that whole thing with the Rhodes guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks from NXT Takeover Unstoppable is underrated.
Definitely. You know what match needs to be brought back in great match conversations that I haven't seen in a while, so I would personally classify it as underrated. I think it was at Over the Limit. The first match Christian and Orton had, like after Christian lost the belt, and I think it was at Over the Limit. I thought that was a really great match with a great story of, can you beat 100% Christian? And yeah, they had great false finishes and everything. So that to me is an underrated
Oh
match that
yeah,
needs to be talked about more.
that's right. Yeah. Emma versus Asuka from NXT Takeover London, I thought was a really good match.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yes, the mastermind, aka Ben Jr., this is your question.
Yeah. This is what, like his third question? So we've been answering your questions, bruh. Um,
This
what?
is his, third question, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, what other underrated matches?
Oh,
Can't really, yeah.
Dolph Ziggler versus Daniel Bryan, Bragging Rights 2010.
Oh yeah, that was really good. Definitely, I'll agree with you there. I actually think, speaking of great matches that I think are underrated, and it's been a while since I've gone back to watch it. Maybe I should to see if it holds up. I still think Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus from Extreme Rules, like after Bryan lost the title in 18
Two out
seconds
of
and was
three
right at the
falls.
falls. Yeah, I thought they did really
Yes.
well with that because Bryan was vicious in that match. I think he was the perfect catalyst to get Sheamus's title reign going as a babyface. So yeah, I'll put that match there.
Draft update. Atlanta didn't pick at 63. We traded back with the Bills, and we're now picking in the 70s. Makes me happy.
Oh, well, that's good at least. Can you think of any more underrated matches, or should we move on?
Let's see. You know what? We already mentioned a few NXT women's matches. Paige versus Emma from NXT Arrival was actually a really, really good match, and it holds up to this day, believe it or not.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Those two, man.
Although I will say Paige's makeup was really distracting in that match. So if you can get past that, the match itself was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
So, yeah, there you go. There are your overrated and underrated WWE matches. Fourth and final question from Ben Jr. If you could only eat and drink the same thing, what would it be and why?
Eat and drink the same thing. I guess lemonade for my drink because I've really like gotten crazy on lemonade. Either that or water. I mean,
Now,
water's probably
don't get me
healthier.
wrong. I don't know if this is how I'm meant to interpret this because, it's worded kind of strangely. I think Ben Jr. was in chat. I don't know if he's still in chat. Maybe he can correct me. But I think what he's asking here is pick something to both eat and drink.
Oh.
It says if you could only eat and drink the same thing, what would it be and why?
I mean, God, I don't even know. That's a weird question.
So, I mean, I guess we'll do it two different ways. First of all, I mean, if you're asking if we're eating and drinking the same thing, my answer would be water because I'll drink water and eat ice and die in 5 days without food and just be done with it. But if it's you have to pick something to drink and something to eat for the rest of your life, I'll take medium well steak as my food, and for my drink, water.
Yeah, you know what? If I was to play the game smart, I'd have to go in on the water with you. As far as eating anything, Maybe just oatmeal, because I've heard that's like one of the few meals that you could like eat like 3 times a day and like still be okay. So I'd probably do that. Although God knows with the fiber intake, it would be really horrible to go to the bathroom. If we're talking about something that you'd eat and drink, like one food item, maybe like a peanut butter and banana sandwich, because even though the bread would make like an awful smoothie, at least you get the peanut butter with the protein and the bananas with the fruit. So I guess it's a healthier option than most things I'm thinking about. So yeah, I guess that's my answer to that question. Man, that was weird.
Yeah, it's a weird question. Okay, so all right. Up next, we had 4 questions from Mark Shoneman, I believe, on Twitter. First question. This is an easy one. Not really a question, more a request. Johnny Scumbag, can you please cut a promo on JBL?
Oh god, this may not be one of my finer promos, but I hate that son of a bitch. You know, John, which by the way, the idea that we share the first name makes me physically ill. And it's funny because I always grew up hating my last name. Now I may have to change my first. So thanks for inconveniencing me there, fuckface. I'm sorry, you're not Tom Phillips. That seemed inappropriate. I'll just call you a piece of shit. That works.
Dude, inconveniencing people is something he likes doing. Why would you compliment him like that?
Oh God, I loathe you. Yeah, you know, he seems to me like a guy who loves throwing his weight around, either because he was picked on in school or he just always aspired to be that bully or whatever because he was just nothing growing up. So then the moment he gets a little taste of success, he just wants to throw his weight around everywhere. Put aside the fact that you have conservative tendencies, and I just disagree with those politics practically wholeheartedly because I'm very like off the spectrum. You make me feel ashamed to be a scumbag because being a scumbag doesn't mean picking on people who deal with their own issues. And it was well documented that Mauro Ranallo was bipolar, and you just didn't fucking let up on the issue at all. And you know, I know Mauro Ranallo can say what he wants, but it was clear that WWE cared more about protecting you, which is another thing that makes me sick because they also tout, be a star and don't bully. You know, and I think what makes me the most sick of all, and why I can't even really be visceral towards you, is because it would reveal my own inner hypocrisy. Because there was a time I was a fan of yours. I got behind the JBL character. I like the title reign looking back. And you know what? I still do because, I mean, hell, if I could still enjoy Benoit matches, I can still enjoy your character work. But to know that you can't even own your shit, that, yeah, maybe I am a bad person and I should do the work, which any healthy person would do. I think that's the biggest failure of all. So I know this really wasn't that grand of a promo, but it's hard for me to even look at you. I can barely even stomach your existence. And by the way, thank you for killing commentary for me, one of my favorite aspects of wrestling that has just slowly died. I mean, granted, you didn't do it alone. It was a real team effort, guys. But I mean, man, did you really make your contributions? To call you a steaming pile of shit would be an insult to any and all excrement. So I don't even really know what negative platitudes or things I can say in your direction because I feel like anything I would throw at you would still simultaneously be giving you too much credit. I can only hope that one day you get bullied as viciously as you've bullied others, and I hope your bully doesn't relent so that you know the suffering that you've put others through actually is. Go fuck yourself, and I'm not even going to sign this letter off in a cutesy way. Just go fuck yourself. There's your promo.
Alrighty. I think, yeah. I mean, I guess you're done, right?
Yeah, I'm done. We can move on to the next question.
All right, next question. Mark Shoneman, what's the most frustrating experience you've ever had with a customer service employee?
Thankfully, I've never been employed, so you can take this one.
No. It's you on the customer end dealing with an employee that was frustrating.
And yet, even despite that confusion, I can say I've never really had a bad experience. Probably because I don't really engage in that aspect of society much, so I'm good. What about you?
Man, I can't really think of any examples of being the employee and having a frustrating situation to deal with a customer, or rather other way around. I can't really think of an example of being the customer and having to deal with a frustrating experience with an employee, but I have had some very frustrating experiences as a service employee working with customers because, man, there are just some people that don't give a single shit that there is a human being behind that counter.
Right.
They see you as their mode of getting what they want. And they will piss all over you if it means getting what they want. And if you can actually do what they want you to do or not, they don't care. All they care about is getting the shit that they want. And, you know, half of them think that, you know, they can find little loopholes to try and get stuff for less money, and it is beyond obnoxious. I guess it's a certain kind of mindset, because I have always kind of been of the mindset where if you're not happy about something and it's something minor, like, oh, they charged me twice for this item that costs $1.50, or oh, they forgot to scan this coupon that would have saved me 75 cents, or oh, they didn't, you know, bag this thing that I asked to be bagged, or something simple like that, I will just kind of stomach it and let it go and move on with my life, because there's more important shit to deal with in the world than $1.50 or 75 cents or an unbagged item. But that's the thing, is that little minor shit like that is what some people see as a catastrophic disaster and are unwilling to accept. So when, and the worst part is when it's little shit that you have literally no control over. So for example, at one point I was working in a grocery store, and I was a grocery associate. So I was basically working within the aisles, pulling items front to make the aisle, you know, to make the shelves look nice and flush with the items, and, you know, stocking bread and water as they got taken off the shelves and all that stuff. And there were consistently customers where if something wasn't on the shelf, they would come to me and they would say, hey, when are you guys getting this in? As if I had any control whatsoever over that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or for example, if I'm, you know, when I was behind a register, I would have people complain to me about the prices, as if that's something I have any control over.
Yeah, that sounds freaking awful, and I don't envy you whatsoever.
But the two really bad experiences that I had, the two worst experiences that I've ever had as a customer service employee, were both at the self-checkout table. Because your job is to stand there, monitor these people doing self-checkout, make sure that they don't screw anything up, make sure that they don't steal any merchandise, and just try and kind of be pleasant and say, hey, thanks for shopping here, have a nice day, as they walk out. That's really all it comes down to. It's not that difficult of a job, but, you know, having 4 to 6 machines that people can check out for themselves if they want is a hell of a lot more convenient and efficient for the store than having one person for every customer to check them out at a time. So it's a necessary job, and it was one of those jobs where, you know, you knew you were going to go in there and you were going to put your time in and you were going to get paid and you were going to be done with it. So one time, this older gentleman, and this is ridiculously embarrassing for me, even though it had literally nothing to do with me. It's just an embarrassing experience. This older gentleman was getting like really weirdly friendly with me. And there was this kind of strange moment where, even though I was doing my best to ignore him in the most sort of not rude way possible, if it's possible to ignore somebody in a way that isn't rude, that's what I was doing with this guy. I was trying to, like, he would say something and he would like look at me like he was expecting me to respond, and I would just kind of like glance over to him and give him like a gentle, okay, yeah, smile. just to kind of say like, yeah, dude, I get what you're saying, but you need to get the hell out of here. But he was just hovering and he was just sticking around. And next thing you know, this dude gets a magazine off of one of the magazine racks in the store and brings it over to the self-checkout counter and starts looking through it like he's my best friend or something.
That's really awkward. Anxious aardvark, actually, I'd say.
And I'm not even at the worst part yet, because then he starts flipping through this magazine and it's like a Star Weekly, like one of those magazines that has like pictures of celebrities in it or something like that. And apparently this dude was like this really, really religious guy. Like I think he was like a pastor at the local church or something. And he starts flipping through the pages of this magazine and he starts seeing pictures of female celebrities with revealing dresses on, showing cleavage. And he says, "Oh, I can't be looking at that. I'm going to end up jerking off later."
Wow. Oh my God. That's horrible.
So that was a big one. And then and that's not even the worst one. That's the thing. The single worst customer service experience of my life that I've ever had as a customer service employee. Another working at the overnight. This was third shift. I was working overnight as the self-checkout counter helper person, because at the store that I worked at, we only had self-checkout open from like 9:30 p.m. until like 6 o'clock in the morning. So if you came to this store at any point over that course of time, you had to do the self-checkout, or if you were really completely unwilling to do the self-checkout, you could request a customer checkout at one of the actual checkout stations where you get an employee to do it. But then it might have taken a little bit longer because I had to make sure that one of the managers came up to the front to watch the self-checkout so that I could do a checkout for a customer one-to-one. And in this specific instance, there was a guy, I don't even think he was drunk. I think he was just like an asshole or just angry. Like maybe he got laid off because his employer decided to start hiring out to machines instead of people or something. But this dude showed up and immediately had this really condescending tone. Like, oh, I guess they're not really paying you to do any kind of real job here anymore, are they? And I was like, no, I'm standing here. I'm making sure that everyone knows what they're doing for the self-checkout. And he comes back with this, again, really condescending tone, talking about, I kind of thought that, if people are getting paid, that they were supposed to be doing a job here. And I was like, yeah, I am doing a job. And he said, well, then why isn't anyone checking me out? And I said, well, right now self-checkout's open, but if you would like, I can check you out on the register. And he was just getting really, really pissy about it. And it ended up being a full-blown confrontation. I've never in my entire life raised my voice to a customer until this guy showed up at like 2:30 in the morning. And I ended up raising my voice to him, and I actually stepped to him, like straight up confrontational, borderline, let's get into a fight. And I was like, yeah, man, if you want me to check you out, I can. But there's literally nothing that I can do about how many registers are open in this store right now. And it was the most confrontational I've ever been with a customer. And he ended up backing down and asking if I could check him out at the cash register. But like, I despise having to get into confrontations, and knowing that this was a customer service job, and I ended up like getting like this close from getting into a fist fight with a customer scared the shit out of me at the time. So it was that combination of him being like overly condescending, like, oh, you're nothing, you're not doing anything, you're just standing around watching other people do your job for you, you piece of shit, kind of tone that he had, combined with how over the top confrontational this whole interaction ended up being. So yeah, those are the two worst experiences of my life as a customer service employee.
All right. Well, I can't really add anything to that. That's horrifying, and I'm so glad you're far away from those types of experiences. Yeah. Let's move on.
Third question from Mark Shoneman. Have you ever been in a situation where you've legitimately feared for your life?
I'll take this one since you had story time a few seconds ago. Yeah, every day of my childhood until I was like 7. Because again, I grew up with parents that like left us alone often, starved us, neglected us. I remember one time I was really scared I was gonna die because my mom had left my sister and I alone, and like these neighborhood kids had come by because we were living with another family at the time, and there were like two boys there, and I guess one of their friends came, and he was this big dude. Um, and he like poured water on my pants, make it seem like I had peed myself. And my sister had gotten in a fight with one of the boys of the other family that we're living with, and she busted her lip, so she's spitting blood in the bathroom. And me, I've got like that fight or flight shit going on, so I actually lunge at one of the kids. I start choking him out. Actually took both of the kids, like the big tall dude and the other guy's brother, to get me off of him. So that was probably the closest I've ever come to killing somebody, which I'm really glad I don't have that on my conscience. And yeah, I'm really amazed after all the starvation and everything, I didn't die. And then the only other time I feared for my life, because my dad is like a major heroin addict. I don't think he'll ever really kick it. He was on some crazy stuff one night. And like normally when he does heroin, like his patterns are like he'll sing in the bathroom and he'll bang and he'll clean obsessively. Like those are his ticks, right? Well, whatever he did here, he seemed super fucking spaced, like out of it, but also very like sensitive. Like the slightest provocation would send him off. And I know me and my grandma were like really fearful of him that night. Well, we had a party to go to, so we went to it. And you know, I wish this wasn't part of the story, but it happened. We never thought to like think of the cat, I guess, in the midst of all of this. And when we got back and the days leading up, the cat was missing. Now, I don't know what happened. Of course, he vehemently denies it, but we think he actually killed the cat and just did awful things. Because again, he was not in his right mind, whatever the fuck he was on. And, you know, I just think had we stayed in that house, he could have killed us. And I know there are times like he's like raised his voice and thrown stuff. And there are times I've screamed back at him. So maybe like it's kind of even my thing, you know, feeding him on because I just wouldn't take his shit. But yeah, my dad is somebody whose temperament I've always kind of feared. And yeah, many days of my childhood up until I was like 7, 2 periods, absolutely fearful every day I was going to die, for sure. So what about you?
Well, I don't really have anything that extreme or heart-wrenching. I'd say the closest that I've ever been to feeling like I could die, it wasn't so much like a near-death experience as it was like a near end of my life experience, which it sounds the same, but it's different, and you'll understand why when I tell it. So when I was 17 years old, I went to college, and my first day of college, if I remember correctly, was July 14th, 2008. And I would be turning 18 about 7 weeks later, August 25th, 2008. And at some point in between those days, the college that I went to had this awesome trip to New York City that you could sign up to be a part of. And I mean, I'm thinking it's college, it's a new me. I'm going to start getting myself out there and trying new things and going for these new experiences. So I signed up to be on this New York City trip. And then it turned out that because I was still under 18, I had to get a waiver signed by my parents or one of my parents. And I was in York, which is a good hour away from where my mom or my dad lived. So obviously that wasn't really much of an option. So I ended up forging my mom's signature on this waiver to say that I could go to this New York City trip.
Right.
And then I was in New York City for maybe 3 hours or so. And then when I was supposed to make my way back to the bus, I was lost. I had no clue where the bus was, where it was picking us up, where the Museum of Modern Art was, which is what we were there to see in the first place. Because the whole thing was we went there for the purpose of going to the Museum of Modern Art, And because they knew like it's New York City, people are going to want to spend more time there. They basically like they said like it's going to be a day. Like you're going to spend the whole day here in New York City. Try and get to the Modern Art Museum when you can and check it out and just kind of look around in there. And I did, obviously, because it was a cool experience. And of course, then I was walking around the streets in New York City. I got to see Times Square. I was in Times Square. I got to see all that. I got to see the M&M factory, and there was a really cool like high tech Toys R Us there that had like rides and shit inside a building at a Toys R Us that I got to see and check out. It was awesome. And then when the time came to try and get back to the bus, I had no clue where to go. So I was thinking to myself, like, the bus is going to leave without me. I am going to be stuck here in New York City. My phone is almost dead. I am not going to be able to get in touch with my mom. And even if I do, it's going to take them hours to figure out a way to get somebody out here to New York City to get me. And my life is over. So that was what was going through my head. But eventually, I didn't even find the bus on my own. I ended up finding the Museum of Modern Art before I found anywhere bus related. And when I went into the museum and looked around and just kind of stuck around for a little while, eventually I ran into some of my friends that I was originally walking around the city with. And we just kind of met back up, and one of them knew where the bus stop was, so I ended up being okay.
Oh, dude, I gotta add one more thing. And I know it's kind of like a morbid topic, but this is a bit of a lighter note. That day that you and I exchanged near-death stories, because like here, like I told everybody in chat, my life has been in a much better place for so many years now, especially being in New Hampshire away completely from my toxic environment. But there was one day that I was up late watching Mad Men, eating Hershey Kisses, just an amazing thing to do with your time. And I was hopped up on the sugar because I ate like a lot of them. And I'm like, man, I got to burn this amount. I got to burn this amount. And it was almost 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, oh, it's the perfect time to go for a walk. So I go.
Oh, God, like, that's right. That's recent, too.
Yeah, and then I remember the story that you told me. I don't know if you remember it, but we'll get to that in a second. So I go for this hike, no water, no energy bar, like no food except the fucking Hershey Kisses that I'm running on right now. I end up walking 13 and a half miles. I walk so far, I ended up crossing over into the next town. And like I started at one point because my feet were killing me. And there was one point that I'm just laying on the ground, still so far from home, my heart thumping out of my chest, feeling weak as fuck. And I'm like, this is it. This is where I'm gonna die. Like this is how it ends. And I think the only thing that scared me more than the event was the calmness I had about it. I'm like, nah. I ain't afraid to die. Like if it's gonna happen like this, I'm only gonna go out. But I think like my will to live, because I literally said to myself, no, I still have never held a published work in my hands. I can't die this way. So I like forced myself up and I continue to walk. And then what terrified me was Chris, my sister's boyfriend, busted my fucking balls because I hear a voice like, oh, you need help, little boy? And then I'm seriously thinking, right, because I'm so dehydrated and starving, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get raped. I'm going to get raped in the woods. No one's going to hear me scream, and this is how I die. I should have just stayed on the ground. But yeah, it turns out it was Chris, and like he took me home. But man, was I just like, and we had a live reactions that night too, and I still ended up doing it. Why? Because I'm the fucking MVP. And then I remember you telling me that story about how it was like snowing out and you fell in the snow. And weren't you like away from your house or something? Or like, what was the context of that? And you were just thinking like, oh, well, this is where I die.
Oh, yeah. It was like there were like 2 feet of snow, and I was trying to walk upstairs out around like on the outside of my house, just trying to get cutesy because I love snow and I love like, you know, like falling back and just plopping in the snow and making snow angels and stuff. So I bundled up. I started walking up the outside my house in the snow, thinking like I was going to go up and surprise my family coming into the house from the outside upstairs. I got about halfway there and realized I wasn't going to make it all the way. So then I turned around and I started walking back down, and I got stuck. And I kind of like was like I fell backwards into the snow, and then I like completely was lacking the remaining strength necessary to pull myself back up. So I straight up was like physically incapable of getting up, and I literally just kind of laid there for a good like 2 minutes before kind of gathering my energy and being like, no, it's not ending like this, and getting up and
I
working
love
my
that.
way
Yeah.
back into the house. Yeah.
I love that you and I are too stubborn to die because we're just like, no, it ain't ending like this. Fuck this, and we just force ourselves up. Because, dude, I'm just like, no, there's still so much I want to do, and you're like, no, dying this way is for marks. Fuck this. Like, oh, I love it. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we could put a bit of a lighter note on a fucking depressing question, but we can move on.
Yeah. Up next, we had our fourth and final question from Mark Soneman. How will the Hardy Boys become broken?
Honestly, if I had it my way, they'd become broken by losing the tag titles this Sunday. But, so I guess I'll go with that. How will they become broken? Probably, and I can't believe I'm saying this, probably in a way that's inferior to how Impact Wrestling did it. Because I don't trust WWE to do really, especially on the Raw side, do anything creative. But yeah, I think.
You know what? I'm gonna call you out here. Did you even see how Impact did it?
Well, I mean, with the final deletion and everything, right? Or did it even happen before that? Because
yeah, that was. I mean, the final deletion was the final part of the broken saga.
Well,
but
didn't Matt become broken by losing the TNA World Title? I thought, because I know he won the championship, but then I feel like he lost it, and then that's how he all started to unravel. So yeah, I mean, I think it's either going to be because of some title loss or some feud that they're desperate to retain their titles, so they're going to go to darker depths in their own psyche, and that's how they become broken, one or the other. What about you? How do you think they're going to play it out?
Probably the least interesting way possible. So, like, no real catalyst. It just kind of slowly starts happening.
Right. Okay. So it's like an incremental thing in your eyes.
Yeah.
All right, then.
And yeah, Matt got broken after losing the championship to Jeff in an I Quit match, I think. It might not even have been for the championship, but I know it was an I Quit match.
Oh, okay. Well, I can see the poetry there because when you quit, like, a person's broken your spirits, I guess. So, yeah, I can see the tie-in.
Yeah, and then Jeff got broken from the match that they had where it was, I think it might have been the final deletion, where they got, like, the fireworks involved in the boat and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what broke Jeff.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know how WWE will do it, but I think they're going to be rushing to get it because I think they're already thinking about all the merch and shit that they can peddle with it. And you said it's already resolved, right? Like the legal stuff? So.
I mean, I think so, maybe. Meltzer said maybe not, but it's been reported that it is, so I don't know.
All right, well, if it has been, it's only a matter of time because I don't think WWE would have any wasted motion with something that they know they can get money out of. We'll see.
All right, we have 4 more questions from Bullet Club versus The Shield, who's been very active in chat tonight. First question is for John. Which dream match would you rather see? Jeff Hardy versus Seth Rollins ladder match or Nakamura versus Hideo Itami?
I gotta say, first and foremost, it's nice to see that you care, giving me my own question. I feel so loved.
He gets a personal question, but I don't.
Well, look, Alex Foster always says that you're the prettier one between the two of us, so we've got our own shit, all right? Just let me have this. But yeah, it's funny because if I was a kid, like if I was like 8 or 10 or like around that age, and you would have asked me this, I definitely would have said ladder match. But I definitely have had a greater appreciation as I've gotten older for that technical wrestling, for that just kind of like having a good in-ring match. So I'm gonna say Knock and Itami. I think those two guys would kill it. And it's not that Jeff and Seth would have a bad ladder match, but I just think Nakamura and Hideo would just have a better match all around. So yeah, that's the dream match I would pick.
Okay, all right. Well, that was only for you, so I'm not even going to give my answer. Up next, for both of us, how would you book a Becky Lynch heel turn? First of all, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, and if I would, I'll be honest, I wouldn't even really be that inspired. I would do like the easiest route possible. She finally turns on somebody after being sick of everybody turning on her. That's it.
I'm going to get you before you can get me. That's exactly what I was going to say too, yeah.
So, yeah, nothing more to add. Next question.
Next question. What are your thoughts on Mauro Ranallo officially leaving WWE and saying that it has nothing to do with JBL? Of course, they paid him off to say that. I hope you realize that.
I was even going to say, yeah, that's some. I'll tell you what I think about that. That must be some pretty good hush money. But yeah, you know what my thought about it is? I'm just gonna let the man live. Like he's been through enough. I'm not gonna question his character or whatever. And we know it was JBL because there was a video that came out of like JBL getting knocked out or something, and Mauro responded to it. You know, I used to like this video before. I love it even more now. So like, of course he had a hand in it. I think Mauro's just being a professional, doing right by WWE. If they, did give him a nice severance, which we're both convinced, that totally happened. And yeah, I guess just let Mauro do what he wants. Still fuck JBL, but Mauro's gonna live his life, and I hope he lives it as best as he can.
Yeah. All right. So fourth and final question from Bullet Club versus The Shield. Would you say that Paige is the modern day Sunny or China with her personal life affecting her wrestling career?
Here's the thing. Do I scratch my head anymore at Paige? Yes, but I'm not going to go that far yet. She's still so young. I don't think it's not like she'll ever work again. Now, maybe she'll just decide, yeah, I'm done with wrestling, because I've even heard like some UFC, MMA bullcrap. I don't know if that's like a passing fad for her or whatever. But I think with Sunny and China, we reflect on them as kind of like, man, did they self-destruct? I don't know if we're quite there yet with Paige. Is she down that road? I would think so, but I don't think we're at that point yet. So I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say no right now, but the potential's certainly there. Absolutely. What about you, Ashton?
Man, I got to tell you, I think it's probably safe to assume she's never going to work in WWE again.
Right.
I mean, it's one of those things where I think she's like 24 years old, so she is young, but it's one of those things where you got to realize by the time WWE is willing to forgive her for this, she's probably going to be like 29 or 30, and that's like the end of the line for WWE divas for the most part.
Very true. Yeah.
With the exception being Charlotte Flair, because they signed her at like 27 or 28. So
yeah.
Anyway, that was the final question from BCVTS. So let's move on to the 4 questions from Paul William Gregory. First question: is there any content that you've stopped being a fan of because of the political views or opinions of the creators of said content?
I have to honestly say no. That's I don't.
Stefan Molyneux.
Well, I was gonna say Stefan is the only exception, yeah, because I realized anarcho-capitalism, that's kind of oxymoronic, and I hate his views about women. I think to call that man a philosopher is a fucking joke and a disgrace to our profession. So it actually makes me physically ill hearing him associated with that. That would be the only time, though, because my thing is, if somebody puts out a good product, say, for example, and I don't think this will ever happen, obviously, but let's say, for example, in some parallel universe, the creator of a show like Rick and Morty was really, really hyper religious or whatever. Even though I'm very much atheistic, if the show is of quality, I'm not gonna mind. So yeah, I mean, Molyneux, that was one thing, but his beliefs were the message, right? I'm thinking more in the sense of people that create things like the guy that does the Ender's Game books. He's very religious and very anti-gay marriage. I read the first book. It's a fantastic book. I can't say that I felt like it was a bad book simply because I disagree with the guy vehemently on a social position. So I'd say in that context, no, that's never really happened to me. I am curious, though, Ashton, if it's ever happened for you, because I know, you're, strictly anti-censorship and stuff like that, so I'm assuming the answer's no.
Yeah.
But
really just trying to sit around and think about it, I think the only example that I've been able to come up with over just a couple seconds is really... if you're at all familiar with the band, it's escaping me. Mumford & Sons. I used to really like Mumford & Sons for a period of time, and it came to my attention as I was listening to them that it felt kind of preachy. So I did a little bit of research on the band, and they're definitely a Christian band, whether they want to fully admit it or not. And then when I started really listening harder to the lyrics and actually paying attention to what they were saying, it felt very preachy and very pro-Christian. And I as much as I like their sound, I had to stop listening to them for that reason.
All right, man. Very interesting. I think we can move on.
Yeah. And you know what? There are also some examples like it's not so much like I was a big fan and then stopped. It's more on the lines of I wanted to be a fan, but I couldn't because of this. A lot of Lucha Underground reviewers who overly objectify the women on the product, I can't handle that shit. And I like, there's this one, I think it's called like Coco Sports or something like that on YouTube that I tried listening to, and I've actually gone back and tried listening to multiple times. But literally every single time I've tried listening to one of their Lucha Underground reviews, they overly sexualize like a Katrina or an Evilise or whoever. And it's just like, dude, put your dick back in your pants and talk about the wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's all I can think of, really. So, second question from PW Gregory. Who do you want to see and who do you think will be commentating WWE's women's tournament?
I feel like we answered who we thought was going to be in it in a prior Q&A. I feel like wasn't it Paul himself that actually asked that exact question? And now I think he's just kind of added on like the commentary bit. As far as commentary goes, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. If they wanted to get cute with commentary...
Do you know who I would love to have commentate this?
Who's that?
Well, as far as play-by-play goes, Tom Phillips would be great. But really, for a color commentator, because we had Daniel Bryan do the cruiserweights, give me Alundra Blaze on commentary.
I was gonna say Alundra Blaze, dude. Holy fuck that ESPN. Because I was even getting ready to say, if they wanted to be cute because it's a women's classic and get a women's voice, I loved Alundra Blaze at the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I feel like her personality would be dude, that's scary, man. Took the words literally out of my goddamn mouth. Yes.
Everyone in chat is saying Lita, but she's already on pre-show panels and she's bad at it. I want a good commentator.
Yeah, and if you didn't even want to get that wrestling personality, I would say like Bullet Club vs. the Shield, Renee. Like I don't
want Renee on commentary either, though. She's not that good.
I enjoyed Renee on NXT when she did the commentary from time to time.
No, you didn't, dude. We both disliked her NXT commentary. I don't know why you think you liked it. Yeah, we both had. I mean, the thing with Renee is she's very likable, so we want to give her credit. But we both thought that she was lackluster as a commentator.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. It doesn't change the fact that Alundra Blaze would be the best choice. I think she'd be amazing in that role.
Yes, so. I want Alundra Blaze. Realistically, they're probably going to use Renee just because, girl power, and it's dumb because she's literally never been a female wrestler. I think that was what made Daniel Bryan so great because he was a wrestler, and even though he wasn't a wrestler in the time of cruiserweight divisions being a thing, he was still the size that a cruiserweight would be. So him being the color guy for that was perfect. I mean, people are bringing up Sarah Amato, a.k.a. Sarah Del Rey. I don't know if she's any good on commentary. So, I feel like people are just saying, let's have a girl be on the booth. And I'm just like, yeah, I want a girl in the booth, but I want a girl in the booth who I know can talk.
If I knew that Sarah Del Rey would be good, I actually like that pick in the sense that she's worked with so many of the women, so she'd have that, next level insight.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, again, I was thinking Alundra Blaze because of her Hall of Fame speech. I thought she had the charisma that she exhibited that I'm like, man, I actually want to see more of her. So yeah, that's why I was.
And the great thing about Alundra Blaze too is that she was in an era of women's wrestling when they were actually trying to reestablish women's wrestling as legit again, because this was right in between the reign of hell that Moolah had and the Diva era, really.
Right.
So, mad props to Alundra Blaze. I would love to see more of her on the WWE product.
And I was going to say Cliff. Paul did correct. He said he only asked about Kairi Hojo the first time. So as far as people that would fill it out, I mean, I could see Kimberly being in it. I mean, I don't know because I know Ember Moon's pretty established, and also I don't even know her health status. I think it came out that she was injured. But I mean, in an ideal world, she'd be in it. I mean, Kairi Hojo, we also said yes, definitely. Sarah Bridges, Brandon's girl, Crazy Mary Dobson. I think she's going to be in it. Candice LeRae, I definitely think she's going to be in it now with things that have come out. So yeah, those are just some names that I think are going to be in it. Do you have any names you could throw out there, Ashton?
I mean, I feel like any woman who's been on NXT tapings over the course of the last like year or so probably has a really strong chance of being in it. So like Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly, obviously, Evie, Shazza McKenzie, like any woman who's been used in any capacity, well, not in any capacity, but as a wrestler over the course of the last year or so in NXT will probably be in it. They might decide to bring back legends. We might see. I mean, people are bringing up Ivory and Jacqueline. I'm thinking more along the lines of maybe like Victoria, maybe.
Oh, that works.
You know,
Yeah,
something along those lines. I don't know. But yeah, that's more along the lines of kind of what I was thinking. But yeah, like I don't really know. It would be really interesting if they would get anyone from Stardom other than just Kairi Hojo, who they already have signed, because, I mean, we already know about Chris Wolf. Tony Storm would be incredible. Yeah, you know, there's that Ginny. I don't think she even has a last name. If she does, I don't know it. But Ginny is another one I've seen. She's had matches with Tony Storm before. Yeah, I mean, the women of Stardom and Progress. I know WWE's in a working relationship with Progress, so that makes those odds even higher. So yeah, those are the type of women that I could see them having.
yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from, man. Let's move on.
PW Gregory just said, I sincerely hope they don't bring in legends. It should be like the CWC. Brian Kendrick, Tajiri, Tyson Dukes. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tyson Dukes isn't a legend, but he is a previously WWE employed guy. And then like Tajiri was in it and Brian Kendrick was in it. So don't give me that crap about it being like the CWC, because the CWC had legends in it.
All right, next question.
Next question. PW Gregory's fourth and final question. What's your opinion on polygamous relationships and marriages?
Here's the thing. I guess I'm not against them because people are going to do what they want to do, and as long as all parties are consenting, fine. But I'm definitely more in favor of polyamorous because here's my perception of it, and it may be rooted in ignorance, so I just want to put that out there. But I feel like polygamy is kind of like, oh, I'm going to marry all these women, but I'm going to keep them like separated from each other, and like there's not going to be much interaction, and I get like different things from different people. Whereas like polyamory, and I've talked about it with many people, I feel like it has more of like a communal element. So like everybody's friends with everybody. So if like, say I hook up with a woman, but then that woman hooks up with another guy, like me and that guy, we get to bond. Like it's this big community thing. Whereas with like polygamy, I don't know, just the vibe I get off of it. It's just like this guy or woman just like marrying all these partners, and there's really no community there. It's just like, oh, all these people kind of thing. See, I mean, I'm not against it. It's just I think there are better alternatives personally. I'm against monogamy for the same reason. I think, you know, it doesn't really promote anything healthy long term. But yeah, those are my views on it. What about you?
Yeah, as far as just the concept and the institution of marriage goes, I think it's a complete farce. I think that marriage should be a religious concept, not something that gets recognized by the state, by the government. I think that we need to kind of maintain that separation of church and state, have marriage be a religious institution rather than something that gets recognized by the government. And by doing that, you pretty much take the polygamy option off the table, because I don't really know of any religions that kind of are okay with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is Mormon as a religion, is Mormonism cool with polygamy?
See, I always thought they were, but again, like that's territory that I got to be honest, I'm like uncomfortable stepping in simply again because of my ignorance. So I always thought that they were, but I could very easily be wrong about that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, polygamy. I'm whatever. I mean, as long as everyone involved knows about everyone else involved, and there's mutual consent across the board, eat your heart out, man. I don't care.
Absolutely, man. I'm right there with you.
All right, we had 3 questions from Stella, Ace the Skylord's older sister. First question, she said, kind of a gossipy question. Do you think that the John Cena Nikki Bella marriage will last? And I have a very easy answer to that question. I don't think the John Cena Nikki Bella marriage is even going to happen because they aren't married; they're just engaged, and I don't think that the marriage is ever going to be a thing.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to put like my own spin on that. I was going to say, it's kind of a weird question because for a marriage to last, it has to happen to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't even think these guys are going to reach that stage. And yeah, just all the stuff we've heard like come out about it. It doesn't even surprise me, but it doesn't make it any less shitty. Like just fuck everybody involved. And yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on that.
Okay. Well then, let's see. What's the second question from Stella here? If you had to choose if you had to choose a two-man commentary table with one color commentator and one play-by-play commentator among the current WWE active roster, who would you use? And the reason I specified active is because she did specify like you can't just pick like a Daniel Bryan or someone like that because he isn't a part of the active roster.
Right. I think Kevin Owens for color because he just leaves me in fucking stitches every time. And let me think here. One color and one play-by-play.
You know what? I'm gonna pick for my duo because I know that they actually do have experience on commentary because of PWG. I'm gonna take Cassius Ohno and Kevin Owens because they've both done commentary for PWG before and they were both enjoyable.
Oh yeah, there you go. I like that.
So give me Ohno as play-by-play, Owens as color.
We both agree
kind
with
of
Owens
stealing your
color,
pick on color.
Yeah, it's a shame that I don't think Jericho would be a great play-by-play guy because he strikes me as more of a color personality too. Because obviously he has that dynamic with Owens, and I do want to create kind of a dynamic. Maybe Sami Zayn though could be that play-by-play guy because he does strike me as kind of a straight man kind of guy. So yeah, I'll put Sami Zayn on play-by-play, and then Kevin Owens could be kind of that antagonistic color guy like King was to Jim Ross in the early years. So yeah, I'm gonna say Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Fight forever, commentate forever. That's my pair. So
all right. I mean, yeah, man, I can dig that. I can get behind that. Sammy would be a really interesting play-by-play pick, and you know that he and Kevin would have the most ridiculous conversations on commentary.
Yes, abso-freaking-lutely.
All right. Third and final question from Stella. Where do you see Tessa Blanchard in 5 years career-wise?
Here's the thing. Like, let me ask you something to better frame my answer. Is Tessa Blanchard, like, a big deal right now? Like, where even is she right now? Because I know I've seen her, like, twice maybe 3 times. But, like, I wasn't really blown away. I mean, 5 years, she probably will be in WWE. Hell, in 5 years, she'll probably have a title reign under her belt with the way this shit fucking operates, if you want my honest answer. But would I be happy about it? I don't even know. Because I don't even really have, like, a fully formed opinion of her. So, like, maybe you could fill in those gaps. Like, I think she will be in WWE. And, again, she may even have a title reign or 2 under her belt at that point. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't think she's a big deal, really. I think she literally just showed up in Stardom and kind of immediately got rubbed off the wrong way because of her arrogant, smug attitude towards everyone. She basically has this air of, I'm better than everyone else and I don't need to pay my dues. And because of that, I don't even know if she'll still be in the business in 5 years.
I've been hearing about that attitude. That is one thing I will say about Tessa Blanchard that I've been hearing.
Because like she and Ricochet are like a power couple in their own eyes. But the difference is Ricochet has the talent to make the attitude worth keeping around.
Right. Yeah.
Tessa doesn't.
I didn't even know.
Tessa is like a 4 out of 10 wrestler at this point.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were a couple for one.
They're a couple and they live together in Florida. Like, they're that arrogant that they literally moved to Florida thinking they were going to be in NXT as soon as possible. And Ricochet ended up being in Lucha Underground, and Tessa ended up not being able to go to NXT, and now she's working just kind of as an indie. I think she ended up in Stardom. I think she's doing some stuff for Stardom, but I don't know if she's going to stick around because of her freaking attitude.
Yeah, you know what? Because thank you for reminding me, Ashton, because that was one thing I knew about Tessa. Again, that shitty-ass attitude. I had heard about it. So I'll tell you what, if it keeps up, I think she's going to be somebody that's going to get blackballed by a lot of promotions, including WWE. And that's going to make the relationship super awkward because, I mean, so we will about Ricochet. I mean, I certainly have recently with the whole thing with Lucha Underground. He'll find his way in WWE. Like, he is that talented. I can never take that away from him. He is really good. He'll probably be there, but that may put a strain on the relationship because Tessa's just going to be looking at him like, "Aw, I should be there too." I don't think she will be, though, unless she gets her attitude worked out. I don't think anybody wants to work with somebody like that. So I'll say, yeah, Ricochet will probably make it. She may not. So... yeah, that's rough.
All right, we had 2 questions from Races Fan Rocks 4. First one is, you guys have to make 5 matches each for WrestleMania 34 using the SmackDown roster. So obviously they don't have to be 5 different matches each, but each of us has to come up with SmackDown Live's WrestleMania 34 matches, and he's putting the cap at 5. So,
I mean, Nakamura.
You want to go first, or should I go first?
I'll go first with one. Are we putting 5 together, or each of us come up with 5? I just want to make that crystal clear.
Each of us comes up with 5.
Okay, I'll go first. I think you have Nakamura, AJ for your main event, WWE title. I think. Because let's see, it's only April. Man, he'd have to hold it for a long time. Well, maybe he could drop it and then get it back again. I'd have Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton for the U.S. title. What else? Baron Corbin. What did I Baron Corbin work with? God, there are no members of the Shield. You know what? Baron Corbin versus Ty Dillinger. Sami Zayn, who could Sami Zayn work with? Come on, I am close to finishing this shit. You know what? Fuck it. He just screwed him out of the 6-pack, and maybe, we could get Sami some babyface momentum. I'll say Sami Zayn versus Jinder Mahal and his fucking faction, at ringside, I mean. So just Sami Jinder one-on-one. That's 3. 4, I'm going to say Becky Lynch versus Charlotte versus Naomi in a triple threat. And then 5, what else? Oh, tag team titles. I'm going to say Breezango as the champions versus a very heel and built up Ascension, just to really be different in the tag team scene. So those are my 5 matches there. What are your 5?
Oh, man, this is rough. I will say, though, my main event is Nakamura versus Kevin Owens for the WWE title.
Oh, okay. I love that, actually, yeah.
The main reason behind that is because right now it doesn't feel like they really have anything to do with each other, and I like that because that means that there's going to be plenty of time to keep them separated, and then when it comes to WrestleMania season, that's when you put them together and you have them start interacting and you start teasing it, and then eventually they full-blown confront each other. And I would probably have Nakamura go into that as the champion, but I don't want to lock that in for sure. And then my U.S. title match, I think my U.S. title match is going to be Baron Corbin versus Randy Orton.
Like that a lot, actually.
An undercard match that I would want to do would be Jinder Mahal versus Ty Dillinger.
Okay.
Women's match, man, just because I think that there's a chance that she'll get called up between now and WrestleMania, I'm going to say my women's match is going to be Becky Lynch versus Asuka.
Oh, nice.
And then my tag match is going to be not the Shining Stars, the Cologne Brothers versus American Alpha.
One change I want to make to my card before we move on. I'm going to swap out Jinder Mahal because he really doesn't deserve to be on my WrestleMania card. I'm going to do Sami Zayn versus Rusev instead. So,
I forgot about Rusev. Well, then you're swapping out Mahal for Rusev. I'll do the same thing. I'm going to say Ty Dillinger versus Rusev then.
He's so much better than Mahal. Yeah, I'm glad I brought that up because how dare we forget about Rusev? He's so wonderful. So,
well, it's easy. Actually, you know what? That's not the only change I'm making. I'm also going to make a change. Rather than Becky Lynch, I'm going to have Lana versus Asuka for the Women's Championship.
Oh, interesting. I like that though.
I'm gonna build the hell out of Lana as a heel. I'm gonna put the title on her. sometime in like November, December, and then Asuka's going to show up, and the whole build is just going to be, we want to see Asuka kick Lana's head in.
Dude, what I love about your women's match and your main event, it's two people that haven't had any contact remotely with each other. So that's fresh as hell. I really dig that. Next.
All right, so yeah. Second question from Aces Fan Rocks 4. The question is for John. If Johnny Mundo dies in Lucha Underground, how does it happen, and to whom does he get killed by?
Okay, well, to me, I see it going one of two ways. Either he becomes a victim of the dark arts of Vampiro and Pentagon, or because I wrote a detailed mythology of Mundo's abs, he draws too much on the power of them, and kind of like we see in the Magicians with magic, he becomes consumed with his own power, and he just becomes one with the universe. So it's kind of like a suicide, but the most glorious suicide ever. So yeah, either a victim of the dark arts, or his abs, like he tapped into too much of the power, and it consumed him, one or the other.
Suicidal abdominal.
Yeah, there you go. Suicidal abdominal, yep.
All right, we are on our final set of questions. We've got 4 questions from Alex Foster. First one is specifically for John. What philosopher would be a good fit in WWE, past or present? And believe it or not, I even have an opinion on this.
Wow, that's surprising. I was actually giving a lot of thought to this, like, in my extensive knowledge of philosophers, and you know what? It may be, like, a bit, like, obvious or whatever. I'd say fucking Karl Marx. Have him come in and make a faction, like, in the same spirit as the Shield or Nexus, and he just, like, buys a majority share in the WWE, and he takes over the company, and then he just divvies it up, liquidates the assets, and he redistributes the wealth. So his faction literally kills the WWE, greatest faction of all time. So yeah, Karl Marx, and then he gets like a band of commies, and we just fuck shit up. So that's my answer. I'm very curious, though, if you have an answer to this. I mean, it was my question, but I gotta hear this, so pipe in.
Oh, even though it was for you, am I allowed to answer?
Yeah, no, I want to hear it. If you have an answer to this, I ain't passing this up. So who is it?
Okay, my answer would be Danae Diderot.
Oh, God, I love it. Oh, the last king strangled with the entrails of the last priest.
Exactly, and that's the reasoning, because the dude could cut a freaking promo, man.
Yes, yes. Oh my God, this might be my favorite Q&A question ever because you actually participated. That's amazing. I am never gonna forget
All right.
this.
Next question is just for me. John has been signed to a WWE contract. However, you have been signed as head of creative. What gimmick / promo would you give John to ensure that he gets squashed every week?
Wow! I hug you and I get done dirty like this? Go ahead. Go ahead. No.
Well, it really is an easy answer, though. If I want John to get buried and squashed every week, all I really have to do is send him out there with a mic and have him tell everyone that he is the true Long Island Iced Z, and that he's going to be starting a new YouTube series called Long Island Iced Z, True Long Island Story, and start calling everyone bro and have music that says, "Oh, radio, tell me everything you know."
Dude, I gotta give you credit, man. I thought I was about to get done real dirty because if it was like James or anybody else answer that question, I just thought, oh, well, that's a really simple path to make him Zach Allen 2.0 because he got F5'd in a ring post and pushed down a flight of stairs. So.
No, wrong Zach. No, I didn't use this opportunity to bury you. I used this as an opportunity to bury Zack Ryder.
Yes! Yes! So even when I lose, I win!
Not to mention, this also gives me an opportunity to say, oh, and then since he's the new Zack Ryder, he gets to block himself on Twitter.
That's right, yes! Me and Cliff achieved immortality today, everyone. We were both blocked by Zack Ryder because he can't handle the excellence of Cliff Shoulder, and I will also take this opportunity. Me and Cliff are now a unified force. We are a tandem now. I publicly apologize for every slander I made against that man's magnificent shoulder. Becky made the right choice leaving Foster for you because Foster's a little bitch pudding ass motherfucker trying to bury me under the fucking bus. Cliff, you're amazing. Zack Ryder envies our existence because we're better than he could ever hope to be. Fuck you, Zack. Fuck you. Yes! Oh, my mood just picked right back up.
All right, we have 2 more questions. First one. If the two of you had to create a video game with wrestlers, not a wrestling game, but a video game with wrestlers, what would it be?
Well, that's really easy because
I have an answer to this.
you seem really enthused. You go first.
Mortal Kombat with Lucha Underground.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, your answer's infinitely better than mine. So, I mean, I wasn't even really going to try before. I'm really not now. He actually gave this answer, like, in an interview once. I would just do a video game centered around Johnny Mundo, because everything that should be centered around Johnny Mundo, and when it is, it just becomes infinitely better. And it has parkour, and every level is just like him free running through a certain area until he gets to a boss, which would be another wrestler. So maybe like The Miz, Prince Puma, Sexy Star, like all of his greatest rivals. So it would be a
So
video
would it be
game.
like an old school TMNT game, like that side scroller type, but instead of coming up on like these sort of generic faceless like mob enemies, he would come up on like random Lucha Underground opponents from his past?
Yeah, that actually sounds exactly what I'm driving at. Yeah, and it would just
That sounds amazing. So I'm making Lucha Underground Mortal Kombat, and you're making Johnny Mundo as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, basically.
yeah, and yeah, it's just it's biographical because it's like all of his greatest feuds, and you get to relive him being a winner all over again. Oh, and Alberto Del Bitchbag, he has to be in there. So yeah.
I just imagine like you have the Matanza character in my Mortal Kombat Lucha Underground, and like you know how in games like Mortal Kombat you have a light attack and you have a heavy attack?
Yeah.
Well, for Matanza's character, all of the light attacks would just be him tilting his head slightly, looking confused because he doesn't know how to do a light attack. He only has heavy attacks.
Right. Wow. That's amazing.
So like the quickest move in his entire arsenal is a jumping lariat, where you hit it and he just runs at his opponent and just takes their head off with a lariat. And then like when he gets them down to low enough health, you can have them with the little stars around their head, and it's just like, and then he kicks him in the gut and picks him up and swings him into a gift of the gods or a wrath of the gods, and then it's fatality.
Is the impact so great that they're like they just explode?
Oh, it absolutely zooms into their lower back and then shows an X-ray vision of their spine breaking in two. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Dude, they need to do that shit like yesterday. That's incredible.
Sounds amazing. Johnny Mundo coming off the top rope for the end of the world, and you just see the abdominals bursting on the inside of the opponent.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, God, I can't handle this abdominal to abdominal contact with this god.
Yes. Shut up and take my money. That's so good.
Imagine Taya doing the running knees and she literally just caves in her opponent's skull.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Oh, it's so perfect.
It is so perfect.
Over-the-top violent Lucha Underground Mortal Kombat is my new favorite thing, and it doesn't even actually exist.
Honestly, like, I know this is kind of going outside the bounds of the question, but, like, given that Lucha Underground really has done things to a different beat, like with the comics and everything, I hope their video game would be of a different flavor from most wrestling games. Like, if it would be in the spirit of, like, Mortal Kombat, or even if they had to be more tame. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Injustice games that DC has. I know they're coming out with Injustice 2.
God!
Yeah, like...
Would the final boss of your Johnny Mundo TMNT game be Melina?
I did see that, yes, and then...
Or better yet, would it be Batista?
Oh my God, yeah. Except the difference is, much like real life, because we just see where Johnny Mundo went, yeah, he'd fucking win, and he'd have Taya come in and...
Well, no, I was even going to say, like, he could have Taya with him, but, like, no, you know what? Batista isn't the final boss. Batista is the mini boss, and he has Melina as like his cheerleader sidekick throughout the whole game. And then when you reach Batista, she turns on him and joins Batista as a team, and you have to beat them 2-on-1. And then when you beat them, the prize is Taya as your new sidekick cheerleader.
That's what the fuck is happening right now? But yeah.
Apparently Apparently, I'm really good at video game design, but I didn't realize this.
But no, I mean, I really did like your one idea. And again, like, I want Lucha Underground to come out with a video game that's like one of my big milestones for the promotion at some place in time. And I would love if it was in the spirit again of a Mortal Kombat, or even if they can't go that far, I can't see why they can't do something in a similar vein to the Injustice games that DC has been coming out with, because I think those are so good. So yeah, I love that idea completely.
Yeah. All right. So then we had a final question, kind of random, kind of might struggle a little bit to answer this one properly. What are some of your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards and decks?
Blue Eyes White Dragon, because it symbolizes wealth and power, and it belongs to a complete douchebag, which I can totally get behind.
Oh my god.
I actually love the idea of a time wizard, because when I used to like put decks together, I actually did like what I called a gambling deck, and it was comprised of cards that like were relying purely on chance, like, oh, you got to get this dice roll or this coin toss. So I actually do like the time wizard. What else? God, I'm not the Dark Magician, but in that similar vein. I don't know if it was Dark Paladin or what. The one really cool ass looking card. Big 5 7-headed dragon of all the elements. I thought that was really cool. If we're not just talking monsters, I mean, I love the idea of the Crush Card Virus, because it's just such a dick move, and it's just so me. Like, oh, I'm sorry you really worked out that strategy. Too bad, like, 90% of your cards are useless now. And yeah, I think I spouted off enough names. Oh, and really, if you want to talk about favorite decks, I love Yami Bakura, especially in the Battle City arc. I felt like his deck was fucking cool as hell, especially the board of, I think, Destiny, or I forget what the name of it was, but he was spelling out final with it. Like, I just thought he had like really cool magic cards and stuff. So I think Yami Bakura's deck, really in any arc, was cool, but Battle City stands out to me. But yeah, I thought, pretty substantive answers. What about you, Ashton?
The one card that's always gonna have like an emotional attachment for me is the Kazijin card, which is one of the 3 gods that belong to the Gate Guardian.
Okay.
Do you remember the Gate Guardian
Yeah.
from that Labyrinth series?
Yeah, I remember that. Fucking.
Yeah, Kazijin is, I think, the god of thunder.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
And the reason that I have such an emotional attachment to that card is because that card, when I was very young and very into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I played all my friends, Kazijin won me more games than any other card.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a very, very powerful card. And the other card that I remember the other way around, the other card that most often was used to beat me in battle was called Magic Cylinder.
Oh, I remember that card. Oh.
Yeah.
That card was a
You know how you know how when you attack an opponent and they activate Mirror Force,
yeah,
all it really does is destroy one of the monster cards on your side of the field?
right.
Yeah. So Magic Cylinder, your opponent can actually redirect that at a monster, and it doesn't just destroy that monster, it also damages your life points for the difference between the attack and that monster's attack points. So.
Oh yeah, I've been a victim of Magic Cylinder, brother. I feel your pain. That card is a dick.
I lost so many Yu-Gi-Oh matches to that freaking card. It was unbelievable. Like, you have no idea how hard I tried to trade my good friend for that card. To just, not even just because I wanted to use it, but because I wanted to not have it used against me.
Right. I have to say, if I had to pick one Egyptian god, I don't know why, but Slifer was always my favorite Egyptian god. Like, so yeah, I'd probably want Slifer the Sky Dragon. It was just cool as hell.
Dude, the first Yu-Gi-Oh duel that I ever saw that involved Slifer is probably my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh duel of all time.
Wasn't that against that guy, that mind slave of Merrick?
Yeah, the one that had like the slime tokens that kept on regenerating. Like, that was unbelievable. Like, that to me was like, and I was young, so you're gonna have to excuse me. But that game was the first time that I ever got legitimately angry that Yu-Gi won a match.
Right.
Like, that was the first time that I was like, this Heart of the Cards thing is bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. The crazy thing is, though, like, if I remember that correctly, I felt like that duel at least had somewhat of a cleverer ending, because it's like, oh, the slime token can't be destroyed. So, like, he just kind of worked that against the Mind Slave. But yeah, I always thought, like, Heart of the Cards, especially when I got older, I'm like, man, that's some bullshit. Why can't you have legitimate strategy with your cards? But yeah, fucking friendship wins all, I guess.
Freaking Taya, man.
Fuck Taya, man. Yugi, I know you can do this even though you have like 300 life points and no like discernible strategy, and you can do it because we're all behind you, bitch. Shut up. Like, I
I
am trying to
believe
do
in the heart of the cards.
Man, that's why, and yeah, typical Johnny scumbag. But you know what? I was really proud of Yami Yugi when he played the Seal of Orichalcos. I'm like, yeah, fuck friendship. I mean, even though he lost, because of course he did. But yeah, it's about
Dude,
time
did you
he
ever
started.
notice that when Yugi's about to make one of his epic comebacks, do you know what the most common card he draws is in that first, like, Heart of the Cards, I believe in myself draw?
What's that?
Pot of Greed.
That's right, fucking pot of greed. This allows me to draw
This
two.
allows me to draw 2 more cards from my deck.
How many opponents do you think just want to be like, bitch, I know, just draw your cards?
Dude, I experienced that at one point. Like, when you get deep enough into the Yu-Gi-Oh game, you stop waiting for people to explain what cards do, and you just see the picture and like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, no, go do it.
So if you ever get into a duel with like an overly dramatic person who loves the show and wants real duels to be like the show, and they're like, I set this monster in defense mode. It's like, dude, I can see that it's upside down and sideways. Relax.
Actually, it's funny that like you bring up people really getting into it, because to like bring two questions together like this and another one about like what place would you go to, and everybody was talking about the future, that would be one attractive quality to me about the future, because I think we would get like legitimate freaking dual discs that would make duels like come to life. That would get me back into
I made
monsters.
a dual disc out of connects.
I know you did. That's still impressive as fuck to me. But yeah, like,
And that was when I was like 12 years old too. So,
like I'm telling you, man, that's the one thing I think I
and
always.
yet I didn't go to college for engineering. Somebody kill me, please.
And yet, and dude, haven't I even told you, like, knowing you as long as I have, like, I wish you would have, because, like, yeah, the way your mind works, like, either analytics, like, working with, like, data and stuff, or engineering, like, that's your fucking wheelhouse.
Dude, Weevil Underwood was my dude. I loved the bug deck.
Really? See, so you had a connection with Weevil, it seems like, that I did with Yami Bakura, because I just loved, really, I loved how evil he was. I think I was Johnny Scumbag even at a young age, because especially when he takes Pegasus's Millennium Eye and he licks it, like, oh god, so good.
Yeah, see, like, with me, Weevil was hilarious because he was like, he knew that he sucked, and he went to the extent of taking all of these like underhanded tactics without even being within the confines of the game. Because like when Yugi cheated, it was clear that he was cheating within the confines of the game. Like he was just picking shit out as he went and making shit up as he went. But with Weevil, like he throws Exodia over the freaking ship deck. He like slips that one freaking card into Yugi's deck that makes it so that he has like all these monsters infected that aren't bugs. Like he is the most underhanded duelist I've ever seen. Like somehow he's even more underhanded than Esperoba somehow.
Yeah, Esperova, that was some crazy shit. But yeah, you had Weevil, I had Yami Bakura. Really, like both Yami Bakura and Yami Merrick, because I love the creativity of some of the Shadow games, especially the one he had with Joey, where like their life force was tied to their monsters. So like, yeah, just some really, really creative. I mean, granted, really dark and morbid shit, but definitely creative, and I can appreciate that. So, yeah, wow, we had a spirited Yu-Gi-Oh discussion. Always leave it to Foster to pick our spirits back up to close things out. I mean, granted,
Always.
he gives me self-esteem issues, but I still love him deep down somewhere. So, yeah, I'll let you take us home, brother. I got nothing else to say.
All right, so yeah, let's close this thing out, guys. Hopefully, you all enjoyed our answers to your questions. We hope that we answered your questions satisfactorily. And we will see you all on Sunday for live reactions to whatever the hell show WWE thinks they're going to put on. We'll see you then, and remember to put in your questions to John. John, are you going to pin a tweet?
Absolutely. The moment we get off here, I'll do Q&A. I think we're finally going to be at Q&A number 10 next month, which
this was 10. This was 10.
Wow, we reached double digits and I didn't even celebrate it. So May 26th actually is going to be Q&A number 11, and as soon as we go off the air, I will have the pinned tweet. And guys, again, I want to stress, either just DM me your questions or do them in the pinned tweet, one or the other, and that's how I keep it together. So yeah, you can get your questions in as soon as we go off the air, and I'll have the pinned tweet waiting for you guys.
Yeah, this, believe it or not, this was our 10th Q&A. It's crazy, but even if I go into our what's it called, the history of our videos, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the one that we're doing right now would be number 10 then. So this is the Ty Dillinger Q&A, guys. This is the Ty Dillinger Q&A.
Yeah, that's crazy, guys. Thank you, as always, everybody, for all the support. And it's because of you we've made it to 10 Q&As, and we'll be coming on 11 here next month. So crazy time, crazy time.
All right, so we're going to close that out here, guys. Make sure if you have questions for next month's Q&A, the best bet is to just leave them on John's pinned tweet. The next best thing is to post a comment on this video once it gets fully processed and uploaded. Really, those are the two best options. I know Alex Foster likes to send the official TWitWoW Facebook account messages, and that works as well. So yeah, I'm going to just close it out there because those really are the three best options for making sure that your Q&A questions are seen and accounted for. I guess we're going to close this out now, so we'll see you guys on Sunday for, what is it? Is it Backlash or Payback?
Payback.
Okay, so we'll see you guys Sunday for Payback, and hopefully that show either sucks enough to make fun of or doesn't suck at all and we can actually enjoy it. But either way, hopefully you'll all stay tuned.